92.39 BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Until 1994, few athletes enjoyed the mass appeal that O.J. Simpson did, and then all of that changed. The Simpson family announcing that O.J. passed away yesterday at 76 after a cancer battle.
Welcome to the Masters. Welcome to the Masters. And it never got old all day. It was great.
Mike Danger.
Perfect.
Yes.
This is perfect.
Yes.
God, I live a charmed life. I can say whatever I want, and I got Worm to back me up.
A worm to back you up.
Oh, man, it's nice to have friends like Gene Battaglia and Worm.
Gene Battaglia.
Talk a little golf. Ippei Mizuhara now expected to plead guilty to federal charges of stealing millions of dollars from Shohei Ohtani.
It's showtime!
Scott Drew has passed on an offer for the Kentucky job.
I'm jacked about another opportunity. I'm like, let's go. Now, I met with the team. There is no team.
We're a team.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Roger Sanchez Vicario.
I wish I did know of him, but I don't even know. I don't know.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome on into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. So glad you're joining us today at 95.7 FM, AM 950, The Fan, Rochester. In the free-to-download Odyssey app. Our stream is up for you on the Fan Rochester YouTube channel, also streaming on Twitch/The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
How are we today?
Really don't know how to feel. I mean, we've lost a sports bar legend today. We've lost a Buffalo Bills legend today.
A double murderer died.
We lost him. I'll go ahead and I'll put myself out there with this take just to put myself out there. And I've said this before. I think OJ did it. I think he did it. We lost the juice. We lost the juice today.
I keep waiting for the Buffalo Bills to put out something on social media. They have not. He's a Wall of Famer, Danger. They never took his name down.
That's right.
He's up on the wall.
He is. No? Nothing?
No. A lot of names up on that Wall of Fame, by the way.
Yeah?
You know I do trivia night, right?
Trivia night, Monday nights. Yes.
Correct.
We have a lot of our regulars who hang out with you Monday night for trivia night and come out to our live broadcasts when we're at Three Heads or Tap Room at Bill Gray's.
I heard this one today. It's a good one. The Bills Wall of Fame.
Okay.
Appropriate today to talk. Who is the only Buffalo Bill on the Wall of Fame that is under 6 feet?
Okay. Kelly was over 6 feet. Thurman had to be over 6 feet. I mean, the linemen, forget it. They're all over 6 feet. Is Tasker up on the wall?
Tasker is on the wall.
Tasker's got to be under 6 feet.
No.
No? Come on. Who's under 6 feet that's on the...
The answer is OJ. In roughly 72 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you came here thinking that we weren't going to kind of goof, you don't know our show.
Right.
I'm sorry. The man died. He has family. And
Yes.
I'm not going to be genuflecting about, what a great man he was. No, not at all.
We can talk about his greatness as a Buffalo Bill for sure. And the Bills leave him on the Wall of Fame because, let's face it, he was one hell of a player for the Buffalo Bills. The first ever player to rush for 2,000 yards in a season.
I think they left him on the Wall of Fame for this reason, Danger. Taking him down would have been more of a story, more of a distraction. He would have kicked things up. It's like, okay, it's there,
and you could
you're
also,
invisible.
yeah, you could also fall back on. Well, he was acquitted. He was acquitted. I mean, you could say what you want about our justice system, but in the court of law, at least for the criminal trial, he was acquitted. Now, for the civil trial, that's where things...
Oh, wait a second. Like, we take the name down for stealing memorabilia.
I was just going to say that, the real crime here is that OJ had to do time for stealing back his memorabilia. Isn't that the real crime here? Isn't that what we're talking about when we're talking about OJ Simpson being a criminal? It wasn't allegedly killing his ex-wife and her lover. It was the stealing of his memorabilia at gunpoint, ending up being charged with multiple felonies, being convicted and sentenced for that crime to 33 years, where he served 9 of those years.
9 times.
His parole ended December of 2021. 76 years old. Prostate cancer for Uncle Juice. And hey, look, again, his family is mourning today. Never want to. You always feel for somebody who loses somebody that's close to them, somebody that they love. But you're right. I mean, let's call it the way we see it. When you think of O.J. Simpson, the thing you think about more than anything is, the guy that got away with murder.
I am impressed with the fan base here in Western New York, though, because I think most people are handling those the right way, have handled this the right way. We saw it for what it is, and we just kind of take a half step back. And this guy was showing up at games in recent years following getting out of the clink there. So
yeah, I mean, and active on social media after he got out. I have to imagine the comments were probably, if he was reading the comments, they were probably getting tiresome. But every comment was one pun after the other, like just OJ. And we're just people just coming right out saying, you killed your ex-wife. He's just not even holding back.
Well, it's interesting because he was acquitted, but domestic violence, that was part of it. We've canceled people for that danger. So the fact that this guy kind of lived in existence in his own world playing golf and
well, I mean, looking for the killer while playing golf. I mean, I'm sure the killer was residing somewhere on one of those golf courses that OJ was on. The other part of today that hearing of OJ's passing is a reminder of how much I miss comedian Norm Macdonald.
It's funny how people pulled this out, and I totally forgot about this whole storyline with Norm Macdonald.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, Norm Macdonald was essentially fired from his job as the weekend anchor reporter on SNL at NBC because the NBC executive that was friends with OJ, high atop the ivory tower of NBC, told Norm Macdonald no more OJ jokes because he was friends with OJ. You remember OJ had a broadcast career with NBC after his playing days. He was an actor. He was a popular figure. He was a beloved figure before the events of 1994. And Norm Macdonald didn't hold back. And man, I miss it. Going back and listening to some of the jokes, like I miss Norm Macdonald's just dry delivery, his sense of humor, and more than anything, the balls to just say, you know what? I'm going to continue to make these jokes. I don't care. Fire me. They did. And, one after the other. I mean, there's clips floating around the internet today that people have, resurfaced from YouTube of, a good 10, 11 minutes of Norm Macdonald just firing off one OJ joke after the other. Now, we're not going to give you 10 minutes of Norm Macdonald jokes because we don't have that kind of time. But I think today in the sports bar, and if you've listened to the show over the course of time, if you've listened to our show through the years, you know that whenever we talk about Uncle Juice, we would play a montage. Every instance of David Schwimmer as Robert Kardashian in The People versus O.J. Simpson. Every instance of Schwimmer saying the word juice.
But in this, he'll never stop being the juice. Today, he stopped being the juice.
Today, he stopped
being the juice.
So, I don't know. I mean, it feels...
Do we play this?
It feels as if we should maybe, as a final send-off to O.J. Simpson, one last time, remember your Uncle Juice. Your Uncle Juice was good. Your Uncle Juice, Gino. Your Uncle Juice, he's a good man.
He's never going to stop being the juice.
You got it, Juice. When Chris and I broke up, the Juice was there for me every night. It's like he's not really the Juice anymore. We got to get you dressed, Juice. Juice, a will? Juice. Come on, Juice. Juice. Juice, it's AC. Juice! AC's here! Juice, I heard Juice. It's on every channel. You know I feel the same, Juice. You're gonna tell them yourself, Juice. Juice, your whole family's here, Juice. She's on the house phone waiting to talk to you, Juice. Juice. Okay, Juice? Okay, Juice, we're good to go. You're home, Juice. You know Uncle Juice, and your Uncle Juice is a good man. Your Uncle Juice is a good man. He's never gonna stop being the Juice. It could explain a lot, Juice. Just hear him out, Juice. He's right, Juice. Listen, Juice. Hey, Juice, this is your life. Juice, please, Juice. Juice, we need an answer.
You're home, Juice. You're home.
Just imagine, like, Ron and Nicole, are they greeting him? Like, what is the afterlife for OJ?
I
don't want to know.
Man, the thing about all of it is, I think most people, when you say, hey, what's your thought on O.J. Simpson? Most people, I think, would say, oh, that murderer? Guy got away with it. The guy that got away with murder. O.J. Simpson has passed away, age 76. All right, we had to start the show with that. I mean, that's when that news broke, Gene. I think you came in screaming about it. I was like, what happened? Yeah, Juice.
Danger. We need an answer. Danger.
We're going to talk. We'll talk more NFL. We'll talk more OJ. We'll talk some NHL today as well. We've got a great show lined up for you here in the Sports Bar. Glad you're with us again. And by the way, you can get us on your smart device where we sound our best. Just ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Later on this afternoon, 4:25, our good buddy Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period.
We have a relocation coming up, we think, in the NHL. That would be the first since Winnipeg came from Atlanta back in 2011. So that's a long time. Finally, it appears that this is ending. So we'll get the thoughts of Dennis on this with the Stanley Cup playoffs going. And then, of course, get his outside perspective, as we are too close to this here. What's going on here? It's a team that scored goals and should have been healthy. And as long as they got good goaltending, they'd be in the postseason. And everything kind of flipped on Buffalo this year. So what should happen in Buffalo? We'll talk to Dennis Bernstein, fourth period, in the 4 o'clock hour.
And to get an even more specific look at the Buffalo Sabres, closer to home, covering the team for the Buffalo News, Lance Lysowski stops by here in about 10 minutes.
Now, if you come to the Sports Bar, okay, I hear your objection. And this is a sales technique, Danger. Name the objection. The objection is, oh, hockey, who cares? I don't care. I hear you. But here's why you should care. Chances are you like the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Sabres share the same owner. And that organization right now cannot, for the life of anybody there, figure this out. So does this disease go over to the football team? Is Terry Pegula, someone wrote in, Tim, is Terry Pegula cash poor? The fact that no resources are going into this. You pointed this out, Danger. Last 4 years, bottom 4, sometimes 32nd lead in payroll. You're running this as if it's a franchise for sale, as if you're cash poor. What's going on? So if you're like, I don't want to talk about hockey. No. This is a Pegula enterprise that right now has, not just this year, 13 years been sitting at the bottom of the NHL. 13.
Well, mercifully, it'll come to an end here shortly, at least for this season. The opponent tonight is Washington. Yeah.
Oh, a fan appreciation night.
Fan appreciation night, final night. Speaking of Twitter, if you're on Sabres Twitter tonight, I'm sure there'll be some good responses to the fan appreciation tweets that get sent out by the mensch that's doing Sabres social media. We'll talk to Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News. He's going to join us here in about 10 minutes in the Sports Bar. You have time. We have time for your calls. If you have time, we'd love to hear from you at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. The Masters has gotten underway.
Tigers yet to tee off.
To tee off. And I want to say Scotty Scheffler is right now in the top 5, -2 through 7. So we'll keep you updated on that first round leaderboard from Augusta.
Yeah, who is Ryan Fox. from Australia.
Yeah, Bryson DeChambeau is off to a nice early start as well. We talked yesterday to Brian Koziel, who said, DeChambeau, it's not hard to look. DeChambeau hasn't had a great history at Augusta. He's got a good start here in the first round, -4 through 14. That's Bryson DeChambeau in second place right now behind Fox. So we'll keep you updated on the Masters leaderboard from Augusta as well throughout the course of the afternoon. Gene, I hope you're not upset at me that we have the Masters on in the monitor here in the studio. I know you want to celebrate any win you can get when you're a Mets fan, and the Mets are leading right now. The Braves, I think it was 7-4 at last check.
Yeah, I'm very calm here. Since last night got rained out, this would be what they call the rubber game here, which means the Mets have an opportunity to win a series in Atlanta.
Yes.
The inferior Mets, opportunity to win a series in Atlanta. Again, this is the new me.
On April 11th.
I'm just stating facts. Just stating facts.
On April 11th. You're right. You are stating facts.
I did like a tweet that Dan said
Dan DeLorean?
No, Dan Fates.
Oh, Fatesy.
Yeah. Something negative against the Braves.
Yeah, I think I saw that too, that it was not a great start for the Braves this afternoon.
Nope.
But you went ahead and liked that?
That does not make me a misfit. That just means I'm paying attention. Like, yeah, I agree, Dan. Jordan Phillips is signed with the Giants.
Oh, when did that come down? Just now?
Just as we were getting on the air.
Okay. I missed that. So, all right, a little defensive tackle depth for the New York Giants. If we may, for a second here, I think the Chiefs are going to, we knew that the Chiefs are going to be looking for wide receivers in the draft. They have a real issue here with Rashee Rice.
Yes, they do.
This is a real tough spot that this wide receiver has put himself and his team in, so much so that it isn't out of the question to think that the Chiefs could just look at his contract and say, you know what, get out of here. We're done.
Or that he may not start the season on time because he's incarcerated.
Right.
Like that, he is facing serious charges for causing this wreck, and thankfully no lives were taken. Nobody got seriously injured. My favorite part of the story, Danger, is reading off all the stuff that was in there, including this Lamborghini marijuana and the Chiefs playbook. So it's good that he is making sure in the offseason he's making sure he's bringing his homework around.
Absolutely. 8 felony charges for Rice. So what could happen here? Usually you see the league kind of wait and see how the criminal case resolves itself, but these are felony charges. You could see Rice on the commissioner's exempt list, and you could also see the Chiefs just outright release him rather than paying him when he's unavailable to play. The commissioner's exempt list is paid leave. He does have a fully guaranteed salary of just over $1 million for 2024. They could void those guarantees based on the language of his contract. So it's not a great look for Rashee Rice, and it's another team that and it's the team that if you're the Buffalo Bills, if you're Brandon Beane, I think you have to be wary of. You have to be caught. You have to be aware of what they could potentially do if you have your sights set. That's why I think now, given what we know and given that Stephon Diggs isn't on this roster anymore, man, there's a team that's inside the top 10, doesn't have a lot of draft picks this year, and has a lot of holes that they need to fill. If you want Rome Odunze and you're Brandon Beane, trade up with my Chicago Bears. Get to 9.
God, the family of Ryan Poles listens to the sports bar. Tell Ryan, accept the call from Brandon.
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Doesn't that feel like a team that would make a lot of sense to do this deal with? Give up a few draft picks, get to 9. The Bears need draft picks this year and, moving forward. They're still building it. And get your guy. Odunze would be the guy that I think Beane would do that for, to get inside the top 10. We'll see. But the Chiefs make me nervous. Knowing that this is going on now, knowing that they already needed a wide receiver, yeah, where are they going to go?
Well, this is, we've reached silly season here, and what should you believe? Absolutely nothing. There are lies, there are smoke screens. Today is a day where you had Jordan Reed from ESPN suggesting, and was echoing the thoughts of Chris Brown yesterday, hey, the Bills should trade down because you could get a wide receiver that's good and fill some other needs. And then at the other side, you have Benjamin Solak today, saying the Bills could trade up to number 3 overall.
Yeah.
Okay, so which is it? The fact is no one knows. No one knows.
No, of course not.
No one knows. But I can tell you this, the history of Brandon Beane would suggest he's going to trade up. He's done it all every year but one. So knowing that, you need to put out stories that you could trade down, because if every other GM knows that Brandon Beane is calling to move up, well, I'm sorry, Brandon. I know you don't want our offer of a first and a second and a third, but I'm not going to settle for a first, a third, and a fifth. You're asking for more from Brandon Beane, knowing he has these tendencies. So that's the problem Brandon Beane is going to face, is that smart GMs are going to hold him up at the gate.
I'm going to stop short of saying Ryan Poles is a smart GM just because I haven't seen it just yet. So there's another reason why you can go and exploit it, get up into that top 10, and get the guy that you want. We'll talk some Buffalo Sabres here. Season coming to an end. Sabres missing the playoffs for a 13th straight year. Lance Lysowski covers the team for the Buffalo News. He'll be stopping by next. And if you want to join us, feel free. Pull up a stool. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326.
You're listening to the...
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I would like to say that every day is an appeal to professional pride. I mean, you lace up the skates and you play in these buildings and you're playing what you love. So it's no different for me. You know, the situation and circumstances always change in life, but how you go about it should never, ever change.
Sabres head coach Don Granato, final home game of the season tonight for the Buffalo Sabres as they host the Washington Capitals. And Lance Lysowski, good with his time to join us on a game day here in the Sports Bar. Lance, we were talking yesterday about Don Granato specifically and wondering, all right, we hear the cries. We know what everybody's, and we know that this team this season just didn't get off to good starts, and you could put a lot of that on coaching. How safe is the Sabres head coach here with the season winding down?
Well, it's difficult to say. That's definitely a conversation. Those are definitely, that's part of the evaluation process that Kevin Adams is having, is going to need to have. He's going to have to come to a decision. It's not an easy one to evaluate. They were still in the race in April. I mean, that's a situation that this franchise wasn't able to even accomplish for years under previous coaches. They're the youngest team in the NHL. I know that people are tired of hearing that, but as a GM, when you think that part of your philosophy is to bring young guys up and develop them at the NHL level, that comes with it. Critical mistakes in games. I don't care what their upside is or what they do accomplish. They still make mistakes. It's part of being a young player. So how much of that is on the coach? Why didn't the power play get going? Is it on the players? How much of his coaching and strategy? These are all questions that the GM and the owner, whoever else is involved in that process, is going to have to ask and answer. It's a tough one, right? It's a tough one. The first periods in the power play are the big marks against Don Granato and his coaching staff right now. There's no excuse for falling behind 2-0 in the first periods consistently as they did. It just took too long for that team to get going. They never really established an identity in their pursuit of becoming a more mature, defensively strong team. That sort of fell by the wayside. So, yeah, not an easy one, because you also have to consider where would they be without Don Granato and his coaching with how he's brought along some guys. It's just concerning, though, when the season ends and you look at Dylan Cousins is struggling, Peyton Krebs is struggling, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, they got going. It just took too long. Jeff Skinner's struggling. Bowen Byram had a few good games after the trade. Now he's struggling. So how much, if you bring the coaching staff back, is that going to change? That's a tough question to answer, and I don't envy Kevin Adams because it's not an easy one.
Yeah, Lance, is part of the problem. It's not a problem. How do I want to phrase this? Don Granato, when you're evaluating Don Granato, he looks great compared to the successor that came off of it. I mean, just a nice gentleman and everything, like everything you want, I guess, in a coach in that regard. But do we overvalue Don Granato knowing that you got arguably one of the worst head coaches in Sabre history that was before him?
I don't think so. I think that has nothing to do with it. The difficult part is, okay, you see them lose 9-4 home against Columbus, but then you see them pull off these great wins on the road. Like, why is that? Why is this team, for a lack of a better way of putting it, bipolar? Why? You know that they are capable of winning games. There's a blueprint there if they just follow it, and the players aren't following it. They're committing the same mistakes over and over again. And I'm not just referring to the young guys when I speak of that. Even their top players. Passing the puck, overpassing, passing up shots. That was a problem in Dallas the other night where you see Jake Ottinger really fighting it in goal for the Stars, yet the Sabres just continue to just keep passing it, not even challenging the guy. So, and that's the thing. I think that when you're evaluating coaches in different sports, there's varying levels of difficulty. In hockey, it's not easy, and it is the easy button that I think a lot of general managers push, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you got to think about, okay, well, if you fire Don Granato, who are you bringing in? I know the fans want somebody like John Tortorella. That is not a good idea. You don't go from a coach whose system really plays to your player's strengths, then go to a polarizing style that, we saw enough of Ralph Kruger to know that that's not the solution either. So what is the solution? Well, that's why the general manager gets paid what he gets paid to figure that problem out. I know the fans keep citing, well, Don Granato is the 6th longest tenured coach, but you have to also consider they weren't trying to win his first season. Technically, Gene, they weren't, Danger, they weren't really trying to win his second season. So how does that play into it? And just because the rest of the industry is firing coaches as the easy way out doesn't necessarily mean that's the right thing for your organization as a general manager.
I always say that dysfunction within organizations starts at the top, Lance. And, Terry Pegula, for all the bluster of him, boasting about what this team is going to be now that he had ownership of it. And we praise them for the Pegulas for saving sports in Western New York, and they deserve credit for that. However, I would push back and say to anybody that thinks that they're good owners, I don't know. I mean, when you look at the payroll of the Buffalo Sabres being 28th, 32nd, with 28th, whatever it is, the last 4 years during Kevin Adams' tenure, the Pegulas come off as cheap at best. So is that part of this problem as well, that you haven't gone out and gotten and spend the money that you can spend to get some veteran guys in here, to get some maturity in that locker room, some guys that can come in there and maybe shake some things up?
Yeah, I'm not even concerned about the player salaries because, hey, they hired a general manager to build this with young players, and those players are going to be cheaper, especially on their entry-level contracts. That's part of it. And when you're going through yet another rebuild, good luck even spending money on players because who's going to want to come play for you? It's a tough sell. Buffalo has developed a reputation. You missed the playoffs for 13 years. You created a monster there. So my concern is, are you spending money on the resources that an organization needs to win a Stanley Cup? Like, for example, a robust pro scouting staff. Are you relying too much on video to scout and not having enough boots on the ground to identify players? Is your development staff big enough considering, they've drafted a lot of guys over the last however many years since Kevin Adams took over. Their development staff hasn't gotten any bigger. That hasn't changed. They're rushing guys to the to the American League. They're rushing guys to the NHL. Like, there's a multi-tier problem here, and of course, it starts at the top. Right? When you fire 22 people in your organization on the same day, you cannot tell me that ownership is not a problem. That does not happen. That does not happen in professional sports. It doesn't happen with winning organizations. And they despite that disastrous day in franchise history, they somehow stumbled upon a pretty good situation over the last couple of years where they brought in a ton of talent onto this team. Some really strong drafting, some good scouting by some experienced scouts, and hey, goodbye them by bringing in some good scouts who knew how to identify some guys. But where do you go from here, right? And I have to mention what they've done in Rochester. When they first brought in Seth Appert and they got rid of Chris Taylor and we thought they were going to go cheap, it looked like it was going to be a disaster. All the credit in the world to Seth Appert of building it what he built it into, because he deserves a lot of credit. But yeah, like, ownership needs to figure this out here on how do you get this stable right now. And I think part of it is on the general manager too, because he's doing things in an unorthodox way, sort of bucking the trends that we've seen across the National Hockey League for decades. Goalie development. Example number one, you rushed you tried to give Devin Levi the job at the start of this season without any American League games. And although an extremely talented prospect who I think has a really bright future in the NHL, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense with some of the ways they're doing things. And that is another conversation they're going to have this summer. Firing the coach is not a cure-all. There are some philosophical discussions that need to be had at the highest levels of this organization in terms of how much money are we spending, where are we spending it, and do we need to reevaluate how we're operating here? Should we stop bringing in all these young guys to the NHL? Because I'm sorry, guys, I don't care who's coaching that team. If you think you're going to be the youngest team in the league every year and you're going to win Stanley Cup, good luck to you, because it's not going to happen.
Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News, our guest here. Final home game for the Sabres tonight, taking on Washington. Lance, I know you hear this. I have to ask you this question, but if you just kind of couple the stories here, meaning, Terry Pegula saying we're going to run leaner, as evident by the payroll and some of the things in the front office you're saying, the dissolution, dissolved is Pegula Sports Entertainment. The idea that they're pulling out of the arena management here in Rochester. Is this team for sale?
No, not. There's a lot of rumors. There's always rumors. I'm sure that if you go to a South Buffalo bar right now, somebody's having a conversation that suggests that the Wegmans family is going to try to buy it or insert whatever local business name you want. No, It's not. It's not. And I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. This is part of their family business. They're going to run it however they like. I think that, again, and hey, they just brought in a very talented, smart COO, Pete Coelho, who was with the Bills, New York Giants. I think that's a great hire. I hope he's actually involved on the hockey side because, unfortunately, and it's become very obvious with how they've operated the last handful to several years, the hockey team has been fallen by the wayside and all the focus has gone to football. At least that's the way that it's been run, right? I mean, financially, they were giving Botterill the resources that he wanted, but then as soon as impatience crept in yet again, they pulled the rug out from under everybody and fired a bunch of people. So, yeah, I mean, whenever you look at an organization that can't win, problem starts at the top, and yeah, again, something has to be done about it. But it's not a cure. There's no cure-all here. There's multiple levels of this organization need to have philosophical discussions on what they're going to do moving forward. It's not the disaster or lost cause that Twitter seems to think it is, all the people on there. But something has to change. Multiple things have to change, other than just the coach for this to get back to where you thought it was going a year ago.
Lance, it was a pleasant surprise through the course of this season to watch UPL kind of come into his own. And it's also very frustrating because it was the thing that everybody said was missing from this team coming into the season. If we just had good goaltending, we're a playoff team. Well, you got it late in the season, specifically, from UPL. But I think that doesn't mean that the questions are going to end between the pipes for the Buffalo Sabres. What does it look like moving forward? What does it look like? Project what the UPL Devin Levi dynamic is here, the end of this season and into next.
It's going to be a challenge for Kopeka Luukkonen because Devin Levi is going to be on that team next year. I don't think that's going to surprise anybody. I think that's their goaltending plan. UPL and Devin Levi, and each of those two guys needs to handle it well, right? You're not going to be in goal every night, and that's the NHL nowadays, right? You're going to have to find a way to get into a rhythm. I think it'll be a lot easier without three goalies throwing a wrench into the whole situation like it did in Buffalo and Rochester this season. And I mean, we can go back the last couple of years of three goalies and how disastrous that was. But this is it. And I think that at times frustrations got into Luukkonen's game. You saw it in that third period against Edmonton, a few weeks back. Frustration cannot be there, right? And I understand that they had different development paths, right? Like the organization has handled Devin Levi one way. And it's very obvious they're handing Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen another way. One guy has to prove that he doesn't belong, while the other one has to prove that he does. And yeah, that stinks. That's a really awkward dynamic for everybody involved, but you got to fight through it. Resiliency is a trait that every successful NHL goalie needs. I know that Ukko has it. It's just he's got to stay focused on, because he's got the talent. We've seen it over the last few months. It's just the team in front of him has to be at least competent defending, and he's got to fend off that frustration and maybe some of the noise that comes along with a guy like Devin Levi, right? Like, it's the NHL. Whenever you have a general manager, if he brings in one guy, he's gonna sort of lean toward that guy as opposed to the one who's drafted by the person before him. So really interesting. It's the one they're really set in goal though. Like those are two really talented guys. Yeah. I'm not concerned about that position moving forward. I'm not concerned about their decor, although it just needs to be tweaked. I think maybe, if they move Yoki Haru, you bring in somebody with a different skill set. There's a ton of talent though. They just got to rebuild that bottom six because, as much as that Byram for Middlestad trade was touted as this big, immediate improvement for this team, that couldn't be further from the truth. I really like Bo Byram. He's going to be a really good player in Buffalo if he stays healthy, but you took out arguably your best forward over the previous 14 months, and this lineup has felt it. And then you go back to, okay, how are you evaluating the coach? And it seems like every game down the stretch, everybody was using that as the meter for, okay, is Don Granato going to stay? How are they going to perform tonight? Well, look at his lineup. It's not very good, guys. You're trying, as a coaching staff, they're trying to get these young guys to correct these mistakes. You got long video meetings with this guy, and this guy, because they're 21 years old, and to no fault of their own, they were brought into the NHL, some of them sooner than they should have been, and you're fighting that as a coach, and you don't have the depth. The lineup hasn't been very good some nights when you look below the top six, and that's on the GM. You got to do more this summer. You can't just sit back and bank on prospects just saving the day, because it didn't happen this year, and they thought it would have after Jack Quinn went down with that injury.
Lance Lyskowski, Buffalo News, our guest here. We'll have the game tonight, 7 o'clock. Lance, you're in Rochester a lot, covering the Amherst as well, and there's one positive. This team, wow, 10-1-1, I believe, in their last 12 here. And not only are they making a run here for the first round bye, they want to win the division here. So your thoughts here on the Amherst is what this postseason might be ahead for this team.
Yeah, I wish I could get there much more often in the regular season. I went a week ago to see practice, sit down with Seth Appert and write a story. But, yeah, I mean, it follows the trend we've seen with the Amherst each of the last 3 seasons, really, where the second half of the year you see a big jump in their play. A lot of that is youth, younger players, teenagers really, who go through the ups and downs the first half of the season, then they hit their stride where they get their confidence going. They're starting to play winning hockey. They got a great culture down there, like smart by everybody involved to keep like Michael Mersch around, for example, Ethan Prowl. Like, these are very important players to what they're doing down there. They might not get, they don't get all the attention as of Kulik, Roseanne, and the other talented prospects, but man, they are so important to that team's success. And it hasn't mattered with different coaching staffs like that. This is the thing with Seth Appert that's impressed me. Like, he's had different assistants almost every year as his head coach, where there's been turnover, and you're working on with different coaches and building power plays, penalty kills, and while the special teams, it's up and down based on your personnel. Like, overall, their team game, like, they're going to make the playoffs for the third year in a row, and they got a really good shot at going on a run here. Like, not to jinx them or anything, but they got a really talented goalie. They might add even more talent. Savoy's season ends sooner than people expect. Like, Anton Wahlberg he looks like a beast at that level. So we'll see. I mean, I can't say enough good things about what they have going on down there. And again, like, that's a credit. It's one of the things that, this group has gotten right over the last few years. Like, at first we thought it wasn't going to work out and didn't really know what to think of the plan, but man, they hired the right coach. They've let him build it the way that he wants, and look what you have there.
All right, Lance. So I'm not wishing this on him, but I know it's something that he would aspire to. You spent time with Seth Appert, and we know how impressed we are by Seth, and we talk to him every week here in the Sports Bar. I mean, what do you think the plan is for Seth Appert? Is he the plan B? And we can point back to the couple of games that Seth got the call up when Don was not feeling well earlier this year. It was almost you could have very easily given Matty Ellis the role for a couple of nights behind the bench, but you didn't. You brought up Seth Appert. What does that say?
Well, I know what the messaging was when they did it, that they didn't want to mess with continuity. And I think too highly of Seth to refer to him as a plan B. But yeah, I mean, if they decide to make a coaching change at the NHL level, he's going to be at the top of the list of candidates. He's earned that. He's earned that with success, not only in the regular season, but the postseason. And we've seen firsthand, like, winning in the Calder Cup playoffs with a younger team, and you're facing Utica, Syracuse with 32-year-old men, and you've got 19-year-old kids. Incredibly impressive. So I think you're going to hear his name if that happens. I think you're going to hear Michael Pekka's name as a candidate. Like, continuity is going to be the theme if they do decide to go ahead and make a change. They're not going to want to turn this entire organization over and go with polarizing styles and new voices. I think, if you bring in a different coach with a different point of view, and, it makes a lot of sense. And if they don't promote Seth Appert at some point, he's going to get a job elsewhere. That's the way this business is, because he's earned that. He's earned that reputation, and he's somebody that people talk about now.
So, Seth, Monday, I'm just curious. You're the only person I've talked to that was actually in a spot to see the eclipse. You were down in Dallas, getting ready to cover the Sabres. So tell us what because we had cloud.
Cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Hey, no, it went completely dark. It was awesome. I mean, a little different. No. No cloud coverage, so it was good.
You come back to Buffalo.
Worth the hype? Probably not.
You come back to Buffalo, and you got
whatever.
the overcast skies, and you can't see the sun for the next 3 days, and the 10-day forecast has nothing but rain. You enjoy your time down there in Dallas when you have that, Lance. You get to see the eclipse the way we all hoped we could see the eclipse on Monday.
Of course. So, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait for the next one, right?
Lance, what can we go check out? The Buffalo News and the Maintenance Day Pod, everything that you got working here?
Nothing in particular, guys. Just getting to the next couple of days, and then it's time to cover some Amerks playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, do you have any expectations for locker cleanout day this year?
Nobody's losing their love of the game.
Yet. I think it all is going to depend on what happens with the coach. The tone and the substance of the conversations is going to depend on what they decide with Don Granato. You know, like that. It's a simple fact because we've already seen what happens when the coach gets fired, and the players are going to pin it on themselves, which they have. That has been the consistent message from the players. It's on us. And again, like when you go back to that debate, it's, you know, if their power play was a few percentage points better, guys, they're probably in the playoffs. Like it's the reality, and that's what makes this such a challenging, I think, debate. Not for fans, but when you're the person in the seat who has to go to your boss and say, "Hey, I know I told you to give this coach a 2-year contract extension, but not easy. So yeah, it depends. Like if they keep Granato, it's going to be a lot about moving forward, what they're going to have to do differently. And if they make a coaching change, it's going to be a lot of players who are, it's going to be a tough scene, just like it was after they fired Housley in 2019 in particular.
Lance, thank you for giving us the time this afternoon, man. Have a great night tonight, and we'll be looking for your work on the Buffalo News website.
Thanks, guys. Hey, always a pleasure. Take care. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Lance Lysowski covering the Sabres for the Buffalo News. Final home game of the season tonight with the Washington Capitals coming in. Caps have something to play for. Buffalo, nah.
I'm glad Lance brought up they run so thin in the front office.
Yeah.
That's also.
We remember that day when they gutted the organization. Botterill, his entire staff, Tails, everybody. I mean, that was during the pandemic. We were kind of outraged. They did it, under the umbrella of, well, these are challenging times, and everybody is tightening their belt right now. And I don't know, have they really replenished any of that? I don't think they have, because they've gotten by without it, and they can continue to get by without it, get mediocre results. I mean, you're hoping to get great results with minimal investment.
The Pagula line, we're going to run leaner. I think that's the last time we heard from him on the Sabres, by the way.
Sure. Also interesting that Seth kind of shares the opinion that we do. If you were to make a coaching change, you have to have Seth Apper at the top of that list. I mean, he's earned it. One, his success in Rochester is great, but you'll just look at the relationships he's developed with a lot of these players. The players that are in Buffalo that played for Seth, with Seth here in Rochester, he still has those relationships. The Quins, the JJs, the UPLs. I think, and now he's developed even more when you consider Levi has been here, and you've got Kulik and Rosane, who will eventually be in Buffalo. I think that's, when you're looking at continuity, I think that's as close as you can get with continuity.
Well, play this out, though. Because here's what we're anticipating. I anticipate Rochester Americans hockey Memorial Day weekend, if not longer.
Sure.
If they do what we don't think it will happen, by the way. I don't think that Don Granato is going to get let go. We're laying out the reasons why this could happen, but ultimately, in an organization that is not spending money, why would you spend more money to hire a coach when you just gave Don Granato a contract extension that hasn't yet to kick in? That's the bottom line, in my opinion. But if you do make that move, all right, that would be on Monday or sometime next week, and the Amerks have another week, and they're going to go through the process. I mean, Seth Apper would have a big old distraction, okay? Okay, that job is open. I mean, can he fight? And furthermore, if the Amerks do what we hope they do, is go deep into the playoffs, get to at least where they were last season, are the Sabres willing to wait that long? Because the offseason evaluation process with the draft and everything else and blah, 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 it's like you'd like to have that coach on board as soon as possible.
Appreciate Lance stopping by the sports bar and sharing some of his Sabres insight. We'll talk a little bit more, not just Buffalo Sabres, but NHL hockey with Dennis Bernstein next hour, the fourth period. Our buddy Dennis checks in from Los Angeles just after 4:20, right around 4:25. Next up in the sports bar after this break, we get to some takes on tap. It's time for I'll Drink to That.
Yeah, can I just say I love Dan DeLorean, kind of like I'm his older brother, like a Dan DeLorean, he produces here. But sometimes like a brother will piss you off. And Dan DeLorean last night, I think, committed an egregious sports foul online, and you're going to agree with me.
You going to say something about Dan DeLorean on the air that's going to get you in trouble with HR? What are you going to do?
No. It's strictly sports conversation. It has nothing to do with work performance or anything. Again, he's like my little brother, okay? But this is like what he's doing here. No. Wrong.
We got a little bit more clarity on a pretty significant story in Major League Baseball today, and it looks as if this significant story is going to go away pretty quickly, which I'm sure Major League Baseball loves, but all of it, it's kind of ironic that on a day where we're talking about losing OJ, a guy who probably benefited more from our wacky legal system than anybody in the public eye, another player in professional sports may be able to kind of get off and have all of this.
This is going to have a nice...
nice clean break.
Yep.
We'll get to that and more next. Some takes on tap. I'll drink to that. Your calls as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Until 1994, few athletes enjoyed the mass appeal that O.J. Simpson did, and then all of that changed. The Simpson family announcing that O.J. passed away yesterday at 76 after a cancer battle.
Welcome to the Masters. Welcome to the Masters. And it never got old all day. It was great.
Mike Danger.
Perfect.
Yes.
This is perfect.
Yes.
God, I live a charmed life. I can say whatever I want, and I got Worm to back me up.
Worm to back you up.
Oh, man, it's nice to have friends like Gene Battaglia and Worm.
Gene Battaglia.
Talk a little golf. Ippei Mizuhara now expected to plead guilty to federal charges of stealing millions of dollars from Shohei Ohtani.
It's showtime!
Scott Drew has passed on an offer for the Kentucky job.
I'm jacked about another opportunity. I'm like, let's go. Now, I met with the team. There is no team.
We're a team.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Roger Sanchez Vicario.
I wish I did know of him, but... I don't even know. I don't know.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You know, something dawned on me after we were having our discussion about your buddy Worm. Well, we welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Odyssey app, YouTube, Fan Rochester, our channel there. Also streaming at twitch.com/The Fan Rochester. Worm is your college buddy. He's currently a lawyer for the FCC?
No. He works for a law firm in Washington that represents the FCC in a lot of cases. So the FCC, as you can imagine, they need representation like any.
If he's aligned with the FCC, then I think his nickname is warranted. Worm.
Yeah, the only time I hear from Worm is like when the Montreal Canadiens are doing something. Usually I get the DM there, like, hey, talk about this on the show. Yeah. Or he was trying to plan up something to come to Buffalo, but, hey, the Habs are down in the dumps, and, well, Buffalo Sabres hockey not that great either.
He wants us to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about the Belleville Senators in the sports book.
In a second. I learned something during the break, and I can't play this piece of audio.
You can play it over your phone.
I could, but I don't think it holds up today. How many people have heard the ABC? If you lived through this. If you didn't live through this, I understand. But on the night of the OJ chase, every network was live. NBC pulls out of the NBA Finals with the New York Knicks in the finals to go live. This is how big a story was. And the anchor at the time, Peter Jennings, he has long since passed. ABC anchoring the live coverage. Like, this is a major, major event. We're all wondering, oh my gosh, is OJ going to kill himself? Is he going to surrender? What's happening next? And they go to a man on the street, Robert Higgins. And then Robert Higgins lets a Baba Booey over the air. And for us, we listened to Howard at the time. And I'm just kind of playing that. Danger steps out of the studio. And sometimes I play music during the studio, during the breaks to get us in the mood. I'm
big Two Live Crew guy over here.
Yeah. And I'm playing this. And Danger's like, what is that? You never heard the Baba Booey call during the OJ chase?
There's a couple of things. One, you got to remember in 1994, I wasn't in this area. So Howard Stern, for me, being in Minnesota, wasn't a thing. Howard Stern wasn't in any market that I was listening to. It's not like you could just stream radio the way you do now. If you had Howard Stern syndicated into the town that you were living in, you knew about Howard Stern, you knew about Baba Booey.
This is the slight gap. You got
now,
the town
I
later,
was in the industry, so I was obviously aware of Howard Stern and Baba Booey and the bit and everything like that, but it didn't resonate as big of a deal as it did for anybody that actually listened to that show with any sort of regularity. You knew, oh, they got one over on Jennings. Stern and his, they're legends. That's what they do. I remember where I was. I was where I am right now in a studio doing a show. I was live on the air and I could not focus because all I wanted to do was learn more about what was happening with OJ and with the White Bronco chase. My roommate at the time also worked at the radio station. We get done with work and we crack open cold ones and we're just watching this all unfold throughout the course of the day and the night. And of course, then the trial and everything that came after it. I mean, think about what that was. And there's a lot of people listening that don't understand what we're talking about. They only know a world where reality TV has existed. It wasn't a thing Reality TV was not a thing.
No, people say this sparked it all because once OJ, skipping ahead in the story, goes to trial and they put the trial on TV, holy cow, we couldn't turn away from it.
Court TV became a thing. Court TV. Imagine a channel that was dedicated to showing the inside of a courtroom and in these trials, in these cases. Court TV was a thing. It's not a thing anymore. It was a thing because of and the ratings were monstrous. It was gold. So of course that led to The Real World. I think The Real World actually came first, but the idea that, you know, we had this unprecedented access and we wanted to see how it all played out. It was really reality TV before the reality TV that we knew today. But to get back to the original soundbite, I was aware of Howard Stern. I was aware of Baba Booey, but I wasn't a listener because I didn't have any way of listening to him. Howard Stern wasn't in Minneapolis. He wasn't in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
So for Middle America, just hearing this, oh my goodness, I see OJ and he's looking scared. And again, I won't play this.
Howard Stern is a much bigger deal here in the Northeast than he is anywhere else in the country. And now, obviously, with XM and with his distribution, if you're a fan, you can seek that out. You can get it. You can pay for it. You can listen to it as much as you want. But I'm telling you that in Middle America, like, if you didn't grow up listening to it, you grew up listening to him. A lot of people I know, a lot of friends that I know that are from here grew up listening to him. So that has a lot more weight than it did for me. But I do love Al Michaels coming in at the end of it to be Grumpy Al once again.
Grumpy Al. Well, think about that, too. It's like, here is this serious news event, and they bring in Al to do, like, the play-by-play, help out Peter Jennings with this. What? Like, on what grounds? Like, he's from Los Angeles?
No, he's great at play-by-play. He's the best play-by-play, and he's in the left lane, and he's swerving into the center lane, and he continues, it looks like he's increased his speed. Now he's decreased it down to 45. He could do the play-by-play if you wanted him to.
Well, that was, we'll have a lot of memories, but you're right, though. People that didn't live through this, I don't feel like we're explaining.
No, there's a lot of
yeah.
people. I know there are people listening right now that have no idea how impactful that car chase was.
It wasn't just the car chase. It was everything that led up to it. The murders happened on a Sunday. OJ is a prime suspect, and the story keeps dragging out and dragging out and dragging out. And then on Friday morning, press conference in Los Angeles where they think they're going to announce, okay, O.J. Simpson has turned in because his attorneys, no, he's a fugitive. We're like, oh my gosh, yeah. O.J.'s a fugitive. Nobody worked that day. And if you lived through it, you remember exactly where you were. Danger, I don't think I've ever told you where I was. It's my first radio job, my first week on the job at WCMF AM.
Oh, yeah.
Which it was 990, and I'm running a Rochester Red Wings game for Josh Lewin and Glenn Geffner. This is before the strike of 94.
Wow.
So I'm straight out of college. And, I remember who the CMF jock was that night. And we just kind of like, oh, my gosh. There's like all of a sudden all the interns couldn't leave work. We're just watching it the whole time.
Who was the CMF jock that night?
Uncle
Raj?
No, he was doing radio. And I think he's doing a podcast now.
I understand. The guy that was on before Uncle Raj. That's...
Wasn't Rich Gensler.
No, I get it. I got it. That one I got. I didn't get the audio because I didn't live through that, and Stern wasn't as prevalent in my life growing up as he was for you. But yeah, the loss of OJ, it is a chance to reflect on just how different the world became because of that story. And I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. It reminds me how much I miss Norm Macdonald. For everybody that's sharing the Norm Macdonald jokes on OJ, I can't get enough of it. Like, he was brilliant in just eviscerating OJ Simpson.
Here's what you need to do tonight, too. Go look up Norm Macdonald when he hosted the ESPYs.
Oh.
Woo!
Crushed.
Wasn't asked back for that either.
No.
He did not care.
Norm Macdonald gave 0 Fs, which is what made him great, and I miss that guy. I miss that. I feel bad. I feel more bad that he's not with us moving forward. It's just a reminder that he was gone far too soon as well. And as far as sports talk, I always remember the early days of the jungle, right? Jim Rome would, Orenthal, stop killing people.
Allegedly.
I'll drink to that.
Oh, gosh. Dan DeLorean, I said this yesterday. Like, he's our producer. He does a great job. Last night he's on social media touting the big win for his beloved Belleville Senators over Toronto.
Disgusting.
I'm not kidding you. You can go look this up.
It's disgusting.
I mean, you want to talk about the Francesa of Francesas. The Francesa of Francesas thinks this is dumb.
Oh, who cares?
Like, here are the rules. Like, if he was from Belleville, fine. If you're from Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, that area, fine. You can cheer for that team.
Danielle Drumet from Belleville.
You cannot root for the laundry of another minor league team. I'm sorry. You think I pull for the Syracuse Mets? Hell no.
Big Syracuse Mets guy over there?
No. Danger, your Iowa Cubs come to town like later in the year. You're like, yeah, no, you don't care.
Yeah.
Look, and there are people like Dan DeLorean. I'm not going to say he's the only one. I have a friend named Greg. Greg loves the Maple Leafs, and he gets tickets right behind the bench with Marley gear on. That, my friends, is disgusting. You be a real Rochester fan.
I get it, right? Like, you're showing loyalty to the parent club, and that's how you justify it, right? Well, I'm a Sens fan, so of course I want to know about how the minor league team is doing. Like, if you're a Red Wings fan, do you have to become a Nats fan? It's not like Nats fans are coming to Rochester to watch the Red Wings.
No, not at all. I was never a Twins fan. I was never an Oriole fan. Now, if you're impressionable, like there are a lot of Oriole fans in the area that, hey, I like the team because I just kind of latched on. I saw Cal Ripken here, and then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But to kind of do it in reverse. Like, I don't, like if bad example, but if the Blackhawks all of a sudden had because you love your Chicago Blackhawk hockey.
I do.
If all of a sudden they had an affiliate in the North Division, Danger, you would never cheer for a team against them.
Amerks guy.
Yeah.
That's our team. Are you kidding? No. Just despicable, Dan. Despicable. We still love you, but it just shows, there's a little flaw in the character there.
Oh, no, he'll be like, no, I like the Amerks. Just not when they're playing Belleville. No. No. Wrong.
It's been reported today, Gino, that a guilty plea is coming in the Ohtani gambling case.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to this.
I know. And the interpreter apparently has stolen more than the initial $4.5 million that was reported. The number is closer to $16 million. This plea could confirm Ohtani's claim that he had no knowledge of the bets being made with his money. So, takes. Do I believe Ohtani had no knowledge of this? No, I do not.
What?
Do I believe Ohtani participated in illegal sports wagering in California? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I believe that the feds can prove Ohtani's participation beyond a reasonable doubt without compliance from his interpreter's cooperation? Not likely. And it's funny that this is happening on a day where we lose a guy who may have benefited most from our justice system. Uncle Juice is a good man. Gene, you know that. He's never going to stop being the Juice. It sure looks like the Ohtani story here is going to go away nice and neat with him getting off and his interpreter being the ultimate fall guy. Somewhere Chris Carter is smiling ear to ear. I was right.
Yes.
Got to have a fall guy.
Yeah, Chris Carter, who doesn't work in the business anymore because he told that in a symposium telling future NFL players, no, make sure you have a fall guy. Yeah, I'm sure the NFL wanted that message out. Hey, ESPN, you can't have Chris Carter on there anymore. On Ohtani. I agree with you. What's the difference here between Pete Rose and that? Well, Pete Rose, in the Dowd report, it's his damn handwriting. That's him placing the betting slips. Yes, Pete Rose had runners, but ultimately he gets caught. Where's the digital footprint here for Ohtani, other than the bank account, which for whatever reason Ohtani just kind of let this guy go?
There's some evidence, I guess, that the interpreter actually went into the account, changed some settings in the app to make sure that Ohtani didn't see the notifications when withdrawals were happening. I mean, if you can prove all of that, then yeah, Ohtani comes out of this clean. But I don't believe it. I don't believe that Ohtani didn't know that his interpreter was wagering, and got in the whole $16 million.
Well, where's Ohtani's attorneys on all this? You're negligent. Like, if you're not paying attention to your client's finances going in and out, that's why the IRS is involved, too. I say this, Danger, because I sent a check in this morning. Not real happy about it, but
don't get me started.
Yeah, I'm not the guy making $16 million a year or betting $16 million. I think the IRS would kind of think. When we got to this point, Danger, it wasn't some intrepid reporter. It's because the investigation was actually kind of winding down, and they had this guy nailed to a cross. And it's funny how Ohtani's camp wasn't prepared for this. Had no idea.
Well, the less they say, the better they are going to be. And he's not saying anything, and nobody is really saying anything. And this report comes today, and you hear that he's going to plead guilty, and this will go away, and he will ultimately be the fall guy. And the way this looks, it doesn't make Ohtani look bad. You can't have Ohtani looking bad. That makes everybody happy. The Dodgers are happy. Major League Baseball is happy. Ohtani is happy. He's going to get off. And I don't believe for a second that he didn't know that this was happening or that he wasn't participating himself. That's our justice system. Can't prove it without a reasonable doubt.
Is this what killed OJ in the end?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of murderers that like to golf that are resting easy tonight, knowing that OJ won't be looking for them anymore.
I want to go back and watch that ESPN Made in America. Did you ever see that?
Mm-mm.
The OJ?
Mm-mm.
Okay, add it to your list, Andrew.
I will. I'll add it to the list.
Fantastic. Hey, also watch the Fox one too. That's a completely different
People
spin.
versus O.J. Simpson is the one that with David Schwimmer, and we played it earlier. I don't know that we played it. Maybe we'll play it again for happy hour. One last time, just one last run. Every instance in the People versus O.J. Simpson, every instance of David Schwimmer as Robert Kardashian saying the word juice. I'm gonna miss it.
So it was terminal cancer OJ had, and he didn't really let anybody know.
Wasn't there some reporter that stopped him in the street and asked him if he was in hospice?
I don't know if it was a reporter, just some rando with a phone, TMZ sort of thing, and OJ kind of denied it.
Yeah.
But do you give him any credit for not at least having a thirst tour of like, hey, I'm dying?
I think about that a lot, and I can't judge anybody who wants to deal with that news however they want to deal with it. There are a lot of people who battle with cancer that need inspiration or that need that validation. It motivates them. It gets them going. And if you want to be that person, if that gets you through, great. And if you want to be the person that keeps it close to the vest and keeps it private and doesn't say anything about it because you don't want that added attention, that's fine too. It's such a terrible disease. It's so horrible that there's no right or wrong way. You just deal. I think you just deal how you want to deal with it, and nobody can really. The where you would question it is the people that say that use that fake it. The people that don't really have it but will use it. I have cancer. Now it's such a broad thing. Like technically, last year I had a cancerous tumor removed from my bladder. Doesn't mean I have cancer, but with the cancerous tumor, you could say, well, you had cancer. Like, I had cancerous tumor removed. Now you have to get that checked up, and it's just another thing. You deal with it, but whatever. It's if OJ went on a thirst tour, he knew he would have gotten, well, an inappropriate way of saying he would have gotten killed. Everybody would have gone, like, he dealt with it, I think, the way he had to deal with it. Not say anything. And I think there's somewhere in OJ's psyche and his ego, he probably realizes, like, there has to be, I would imagine, some remorse, some guilt somewhere in that soul of what he did. No remorse.
No, that would have happened long ago. I would have thought, okay. And Dennis Bernstein's coming up. Dennis, I know you're listening, but this is interesting. Like, if you're on I don't know what this would be like. Hey, you have only a few weeks left to live. And if you were concerned about what's next here, wouldn't you kind of confess to everything and try to make peace? Unless you've really convinced yourself that this never happened. Oh, here's the one thing, my other thought on this. We don't need to look at OJ's brain. Why? You already know.
You want to see CTE, yeah, of course.
Well, we don't need to build him into the sympathetic figure.
Right. We'll check in next with Dennis Bernstein of the fourth period. We'll talk some NHL. We'll get the playoff picture from Dennis, and we'll take a larger, longer 30,000-foot view of the Buffalo Sabres from Dennis covering the NHL for the fourth period next here on The Fan.
You're listening to Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We go to L.A. and check in with our buddy Dennis Bernstein, thefourthperiod.com. Talk some NHL, talk some Buffalo Sabres. Dennis, being in L.A., you have to have an OJ story that you can share with us. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's been a minute between drinks at the sports bar, so I'm glad to be with you. Everybody in L.A., if they're old enough, has an OJ story. And my story was, well, I was watching the NBA final during the time that it happened with respect to the chase, and I guess it was the aftermath, right? When people used to come visit me in L.A. when I lived on the west side of L.A., and I lived close by to Bel Air. I lived in West L.A. I would actually drive people on the route from the restaurant back to OJ's house on Rockingham, and people could see, wow, it really wasn't far away. He could certainly have done it. So we used to drive down Bundy over to Rockingham and pass by the house, and eventually, because there was so much traffic going by that infamous house, that the city put up barriers where you couldn't go into Rockingham anymore unless you were a resident, and then eventually someone bought the house and raised it to the ground and built a new one.
Yeah, the thing I remember about that, and I had a friend in LA that did the same thing, like, hey, take me to the scene here. Yeah. And what you didn't come across on the TV was that Bundy is a busy street. And Dennis, this is only a couple years after the crime scene that apartment kind of remained. So that always kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, I actually got into when I visited L.A. but right before I moved in '96 or '96. Actually, I got into an accident on Bundy because it's a high traffic street, and cars are going 45 miles an hour. There are a couple side streets to pull out, so it's not an easy drive with respect to there is a lot of vehicular traffic. So that's the other thing is that he did the deed and was able to go back through traffic and get back home, but there was certainly proximity from the house in Rockingham to the restaurant where both lost their lives.
Dennis, I want to get a little Stanley Cup playoff primer from you here. Sure. We love tapping into your knowledge of the league, but we got to start with our Buffalo Sabres, who once again will be missing the postseason here, 13 consecutive seasons, not making the postseason. We wonder about the future of Don Granato. We wonder about how much money is being put into this organization. I mean, Gene makes the observation that just from the outside looking in, it would appear as if this organization is being run as if it's going to be sold. It's been running so lean, and they haven't been investing in payroll. What's your take on the Buffalo Sabres season, a season that is going to end in disappointment once again?
Okay, so they should be in the position that Washington's in tonight, where you need to win a game to stay in the playoff run or to stay in playoff position. Right? That should be the situation. And you're behind a team that has a minus 40 goal differential. It's not good enough. Now, whether Don Granato goes or not is for management to decide. I can't disagree with your take on the organization. I think if there was some billionaire out there that wanted to buy a team that was based in Buffalo, he could probably have it, right? So you could probably get a deal struck. So it doesn't mean the organization is willing to sell. It doesn't mean they're actively selling. But if there was, time and opportunity and right money, an owner not like the one in Arizona that had means, yeah, sure, it could conceivably happen. Now, is the team that far away? No. But every time I've come on the show at the end of a Sabre season, I say the same thing. They're not that far away. They found a goaltender. They may have two if Levi's the real deal, right? Look, Page, was it asking too much for him to replicate last season's numbers? Yeah. Right? Do you need better than 55 points in 68 games? Yeah, at $7.1 million, you probably do. But again, I think with a couple of tweaks, and it's always going to come down to one thing with this team, right? Is the middle six good enough? Like, is there enough offense there, right? Now, look, I know that Colorado needed middle step because Ryan Johansson wasn't going to win them a championship as a 2 seed, but to get back Byram in that deal, that's a win as well. So they're in position, right? And they do change coaches. I think they're a coach. Look, I think Craig Berube in a second would be interested in coaching Buffalo because there's still a lot of young talent here. You have an elite center in Tage Thompson. There are a lot of good parts. I love Petarka's game this year, 28 goals. He's really emerged from this team. So there's a lot of positives coming out of this, but it's the same thing every year. What do I say to you guys every year? The biggest tease in the NHL is the Buffalo Sabres because every year they'll go on a run, they'll finish 2 to 4 points out of a playoff spot, and you look at the teams ahead of them and say, oh, they're going to pass those teams next year, and it never happens, right? They should be ahead of Pittsburgh. Like, they should be ahead of Washington. They should probably be, well, they're the 3 seed right now, but they're probably better than the Islanders. But it hasn't worked. So if you wanted to change coaches, I don't have a problem with it organizationally. I wouldn't have a problem with the state as well. But, this is a pivotal season and pivotal offseason for Kevin Adams. Like, what are you going to do to make this team better? Because it's clearly good enough to be a cusp team. But and you guys know this. You know the sport. The worst thing you could do in the sport is be mediocre. You can't be mediocre. You can't be the 9th place team every season because you won't elevate to the first. Right? And I know this team has been at the depths. It hasn't worked. But this is a pivotal season for Kevin Adams and obviously the organization as well.
Yeah, we look at the payroll. And sure, they've signed some of their core players, but Dennis, they've been in the bottom 4 each of the last 4 years. Let me ask you the question this way, and it's about ownership, not just in Buffalo, but compared to other owners in the NHL. If I said to just the average sports fan, who are the dysfunctional organizations in the NFL? We'd point to Carolina. Maybe somebody would say Cleveland or the Jets. I think the Sabres are in this conversation, certainly, with the way they've kind of stripped things down in the front office and they're running leaner. But, comparatively speaking, are they the most dysfunctional organization in the NHL, or who would you compare them to?
No, nobody's more dysfunctional than Arizona. So there's 31 dysfunctions, and there's Arizona, right? So let's put Arizona on the side. Are they dysfunctional? I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Now, I'm sure there are a ton of Sabres fans listening to the show that will disagree with me pretty vehemently, but I don't think it's to that extent because I think they've done well with trades. I think they won through the draft, but their players are younger. So look, if Rasmus Dahlin came across like 3 years from now, he's probably a $9 million cap hit, not a $6 million cap hit. So there's some timing involved. Now, I think the point in time where you call it dysfunctional, and I agree with you from one respect, not making the playoffs when half the teams make the playoffs and it's been 12 seasons, that's not good, right? That's not good. That's a result-based thing, right? That's bad decisions in the front office. Does it mean it's dysfunction there? Well, I know I know the stories out of Buffalo with the Pagulas. I get it. I understand it. And you're right about the organization being more lean. Has it hurt the organization? Have they not been able to draft a great player because there's one less scout in the front office? I don't think that's the case. But again, now that you're in a position, you have a core forming here. Like you've got 3 on the blue line, you have a couple up front. Now, what is Kevin Adams going to do, or what's the organization going to do to add to this? Right? This is another fork in the road for the organization. And to your point, there's been too many forks in the road where you think, okay, they're going to achieve it. And I've been going on this for 3-4 years. I thought the Sabres would be a top 3 team in the Atlantic this season. I really did. I thought this was going to be the season. And to end it like this when you're behind Philadelphia and Washington and Pittsburgh, who aren't playoff worthy things, yeah, you could say there's some dysfunction here, but I don't think it's just based on results. I think there are other things involved with respect to the organization as well.
Dennis, you brought up the most dysfunctional team in the NHL, and I wanted to see if we can get an update from you, what we know about the relocation of the Arizona Coyotes to Salt Lake City.
Okay, so the crux of all this, where this really got traction about moving, obviously the owner put out a post on social media saying, hey, you know what? If a team moved to Utah, what would you want to name it? Right? That was on Monday. I'm like, oh, boy, okay, so something's going to go on. Here's the real reality of what's going on and why this is getting some traction now. If they put a shovel in the ground today in Arizona, wherever, Scottsdale, Phoenix, which Scottsdale doesn't want them if you listen to the mayor, like wherever, it would take at least 3 years to build a building. So what does that mean? That means they'd be in Mullet Arena for 5 years. And that, I believe, for the Board of Governors is untenable right now. Because when they signed on, remember, it was a 3-year deal, maybe a fourth as an option, and they'd be out of there. Well, that's if they built the building today, and they still haven't won the land auction. Who knows when construction starts? So now this is why you're hearing this, that maybe it's the best. Because, look, I went to opening night at Mullet. I thought it was a great experience. The not-so-good experience was the guy crashing into me with his French fries and his soda because there's no press box, and I'm sitting at the top of the lower bowl in a chair where normally there would be drinks served. So that's not really good. And I'm sure the facilities in the locker room, it's Arizona State, which is cool when you go out in Tempe and Mill Street after the game, which is really great. But during games, it's not so great. So I think that, and certainly Marty Walsh, who's the head of the NHLPA, is now meeting with agents in Los Angeles this week about and the top topic is Arizona. And I know there's some compassion, like if they move, do you feel sorry for the players that are living in Arizona? Please, I don't feel sorry for anybody if you have to move. People move for jobs all the time. So that's not the issue. So the real crux of the situation is certainly the building. But I will tell you this, even if they move to Salt Lake City, they're not giving up on Arizona. They've dug their heels too deep into the sand in the desert to think, okay, it hasn't worked. What would happen is Ryan Smith would buy the team from Murillo, right? Probably pay an expansion fee as well. So it'd probably be a $2 million acquisition, which you can afford. And then 3 to 5 years, when we get to 36 teams, and we will, one of the teams will be in Arizona. And now they're afraid about lawsuits, or maybe Murillo will get that franchise back. But if they leave Arizona, and for people who think it's Arizona, it won't work in the desert, well, that's not the case. They'll go back there as an expansion team if this doesn't get resolved, where the Coyotes stay there. But I think for all, and not for nothing, the arena in Salt Lake City is not built for hockey. Right. It's going to be like, and I reference Arizona again. It's like the old America West Arena, where at one end there's obstructive view, but it's double the attendance. I think if it's right now for hockey, the attendance is probably, 12,500, 13,000. Well, that's double or triple what they get in Arizona right now, so it makes sense. So I think that's the situation right now. It's leaning that way, but as Frank Saravelli, who's one of the main reporters in hockey, said, there's a lot of layers and a lot of lawyers, so this is not done yet, but it's trending in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis, when we have you on, over the years here, we've been talking about expansion. We saw Vegas, we saw Seattle. We hear all this noise that Atlanta would be in the mix. Yeah. So do you think we're going to get to a point here? And if so, what timeline this out for us? When does the league say, all right, we'll take some more checks here, please?
Okay, so probably 2 to 3 years you're going to have Utah and probably Atlanta, and they're going to go back to Atlanta. And not only this, guys. Well, people it didn't work. There are 2 groups in Atlanta wanting to buy a team. It's not just Anson Carter and his group. It's another guy named Krause who owns, I believe, car dealerships in Atlanta, has another location in Atlanta. And I think what stirred all that was, there used to be downtown Atlanta facilities and stadiums, and Atlanta's not a great sports town. Let's be real. It's not. But now what happened was the Braves moved north, and they built this nice facility and a nice destination around the park, and it became popular, and they're selling out games again. And so other people in Atlanta said, okay, how do I get in on this new area to develop? Well, through an NHL team. So, yeah, you'll see Atlanta. You meet now, for not for nothing, like Tillman Fertitta in Houston forever said, I'm not interested in a hockey team. I don't need a second tenant in my building with the Rockets. And now this week he's talking to the NHL about being part of a group to buy a team. It's happening. And you know why? Business is good. And I get what fans saying. You might dilute the product. There's too many players, whatever. No, business is really good because you mentioned Seattle and Vegas. You had 2 billionaires lining up and didn't blink, wrote checks, spent money in the organization. One won a Stanley Cup in 6 years. The other one had success 2 years out of the box in the playoffs. It's a good business to be in. And for billionaires that want a toy and want to bring their friends to games and show off their shiny new toy of a hockey team, that's why there's interest in this league. And the play is very, very good because when we eventually talk about the game itself and the Stanley Cup playoffs, you can make the case for 10 teams being in there. And I'll never forget one thing, guys. I'll end with this with respect to expansion. I asked Gary Bettman last year about the surprising results of Vegas winning and Seattle doing well. He goes, I'm not surprised because we set up the rules for them to succeed. And I get it. If you pay $1 billion for a franchise, do you want 15 years for it to be successful, or do you want almost immediate satisfaction and performance? You do. So that's why they set up the rules the way they do. So the next teams, look, I'm not telling you they're going to win the Cups in 6 or 7 years like Vegas did or be successful like Seattle was second out of the box, but they will have good players on those teams. They will be more competitive than back in the day when Ottawa came in the league and Winnipeg first came in the league. So that's a situation with respect to expansion. It's going to happen whether fans like it or not because the business is doing that well.
Dennis, the Sabres regular season home finale is tonight in Buffalo against the Capitals. Playoff implications there. We also have another matchup with playoff implications between the Red Wings and the Penguins. Between the Caps, the Wings, and the Pens, is there a real team out of those 3 that can make a push in the postseason?
Well, Pittsburgh's playing the best. But if you ever watch Pittsburgh playing the playoffs since they won the Stanley Cup, they're not making a push. They'll go out in 5 games. Like, they're just not competitive enough. So, and it's great to see one thing. I'll say this about Washington, Pittsburgh, and Detroit. Like, in the midst of this run, and I won't even call it a run, guys, because here's your case, Exhibit A, for not expanding the playoffs when you have these mediocre marginal teams fighting for the last playoff spot. Like, we don't need the 10th place team. We don't need the Flyers who lost 9-3 in Montreal and gave up 9 5-on-5 goals in the playoffs, right? But to me, the most satisfying thing is who's leading Washington? Ovechkin. Who's leading Pittsburgh? Sidney. Who's leading Detroit to some extent? Patrick Kane. So it's great to see these players trying to lift the level of these teams getting in. I think Pittsburgh has the edge. I think they're 6-1-3 in their last 10. They have 3 home games, but they're tough ones. You mentioned Detroit tonight. Then they have Boston at home on Saturday, and Nashville, who's hot as a pistol, cool off a little bit on Monday. So it's going to be tough. I'm personally rooting, not because of Ovechkin. I want to see a team with a minus 40 goal differential in the playoffs, right? That will end the conversation about expanding the playoffs because Washington, and look, I get it. It's score effect. When they win all close games. When they lose, they get blown out 5-6-0, right? So that's why you're in the predicament that you are. But I will say this. Better if you're the Bruins or the Rangers, the worst team right now in position, to be honest with you, are the Bruins. I think of all the playoff teams. Because you know who they're going to play in the first round? They're going to play the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's probably the last team you want to play in the playoffs because they're coming. The goalie's getting healthy. Stamkos is there. Everybody knows about Kucherov. He's going to be a finalist for the MVP. It's going to be very, very interesting. So the 3 teams that are battling for the final spot, I give the edge to Pittsburgh because of their home, the remaining home schedule, and they've been playing best of the 3.
Meanwhile, like the Hurricanes will get the Islanders or something silly like that. Like, Dennis, we ask this question every year because somebody's going to get screwed in this. And as you mentioned, like it's always the Atlantic Division. It seems like, hey, this is a matchup that shouldn't be happening here in the first round. Is there any movement here to get this format finally changed here? Because fans certainly seemingly want it.
Well, I don't know if fans seemingly want it. To be honest with you, I think a lot of the matchups right now would kind of be the same. Like if it was 1 through 8, you'd have in the East, you have Rangers, Capitals, Carolina Islanders, Bruins, Lightning. You'd have the same matchups if you went 1 through 8. If you do by points right now. So here's the thing. If you really wanted to change it, you know what you have to do? You'd have to do 1-16.
Yeah.
And then you have a situation where if New York plays Los Angeles in the first round, these teams are flying, coast to coast 3 or 4 times. That's not really fair. And that's not how because you build rivalries in the playoffs. Like, I'm kind of rooting for the Islanders drop to the 8. So we have the Islanders-Rangers first round. And after what went on the last game about Lobby saying there was, egregious and intentional elbows and stuff like that, I want the Rangers and the Islanders to play. So I think the only way you're going to drastically change the format, because I just showed you it's going to be the same matchups. You would have to do 1-16. I just don't think that's tenable because there'd be potentially too much travel and it'd be unfair to certain teams.
Who's real in the East? Because the Panthers have come on strong once again. The Bruins, we mentioned, the Rangers, the most points in the NHL. What do you like about these teams out East as we approach the Stanley Cup playoffs, Dennis?
Well, I think with respect to contenders, I think there's mirror images, the East and West. I can make the case for 10 teams winning the Cup, right? So there's 5 in the East: Boston, Florida, Toronto, New York, and Carolina. And guess what? I can also make the case for every one of these teams losing in the first round, right? Is Freddie Anderson going to get hurt? Are the Rangers' depth good enough? Is the center play going to be good enough in Boston? Florida, they've regressed a little bit. Toronto, can we count on their big 4 to produce in the playoffs? So I think that certainly the 3 finishers in the top 3 in the Atlantic, legit. I love the way Toronto's playing. They have one of the best records the last 2 months of the season. New York is certainly legit with Shesterkin. Panarin's not going to win the MVP, but he's certainly put up the MVP season. I love Carolina. Full disclosure, I picked Carolina over Dallas to start the season at thefourthperiod.com. That was my prediction. Love what Carolina's doing. They have the depth. If Freddie Anderson is going to be healthy, they've got a lot of things going for them. So I think that the number 3 in the Metro is not for real. And I mentioned Tampa Bay, but do I think they're a 3-round team or a 4-round team? I don't think at this point. But the 5, any one of those 5 can emerge from the East at this point.
Dennis, last one from me, and I'm asking this because Washington is in the area tonight as the Sabres' opponent. We'll have the game at 7 o'clock here. Ovechkin. Like, it's not going to happen next year, but I'm going to figure he's going to continue to play. And, like, we're going to have this chase on for Gretzky. I never thought we would be saying something like that. So your perspective, being in Los Angeles, that Gretzky could get tracked down, and this is an opportunity for the NHL to get some eyeballs here if this ends up being a chase here in 2 years.
Oh, yeah. And Alex has 2 more years on his deal after this one at $9.5 million. You know why he signed that contract. Not because he needs the money, because he wants to break the record, and he will. And the rush he put on at this point, because remember, he was in the mid-teens of goal scoring. I thought he'd score 18 or 19 goals this year, and then think, okay, does he have the wherewithal? And now he's at 30? Mm-hmm. Like he went with a rush he came in. So yeah, he won't break it next year, but he will certainly break it in the next season. And the fact that they have TNT and TBS and ESPN and who else knows by the time he's getting close to the record covering this league, of course it's a huge media opportunity. I'm sure it'll be covered. Every game will be covered probably by a network once he gets down to 1 or 2 goals behind. And he is the greatest goal scorer of our generation and eventually of all time.
It's
without
amazing.
question. And the fact that he's rarely been hurt, guys. That's the other thing. To go through, he's played 1,422 regular season games and another 147 playoff games. It's a lot of hockey for a guy. And the way he plays, that physicality when he came in the league, he's pared it back a little bit now, but it's just a testament to the guy who will eventually be the greatest goal scorer of all time in the NHL.
Dennis, tell us a little bit about the fourth period, what you guys are working on here as we get closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Looking forward to it.
So it's all about the playoffs, boys. So we'll be at thefourthperiod.com. We have our predictions. We'll be doing the video coverage. We have a sponsor for our video coverage, so probably daily or at least every other day we'll be talking about all the playoff matchups. We're excited, and as I mentioned, it's wide open. 10 teams can win the Stanley Cup this year. That's the parity in this league is like it's never been before because there's so many great players in this league. So look for us on social media, at our website, thefourthperiod.com, and also, I sit in on SiriusXM. On weekends, we do the Hot Stove from 11/1 Eastern. I also sit in sometimes during the weekday shows as well.
And I want to get out to L.A. just to kind of go through Rockingham and some of these points with Dennis, just to give me the guided tour.
Oh, you got it. Anytime. Free of charge, too. I usually charge, but for you, glad.
Dennis, you're the best, man. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Great being on Sports Bar, boys. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Dennis Bernstein, the fourth period. Always great to get caught up with Dennis. Love the OJ story. We'll get to more OJ here in a little bit. Happy hour next in the Sports Bar.
We'll get to another OJ story here. Anybody that wants to kind of weigh in, our phone number 585-866-4326, 866-4FAN.
All right, more next. The Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Until 1994, few athletes enjoyed the mass appeal that O.J. Simpson did, and then all of that changed. The Simpson family announcing that O.J. passed away yesterday at 76 after a cancer battle.
Welcome to the Masters. Welcome to the Masters. And it never got old all day. It was great.
Mike Danger.
Perfect.
Yes.
This is perfect.
Yes.
God, I live a charmed life. I can say whatever I want, and I got Worm to back me up.
A worm to back you up.
Oh, man, it's nice to have friends like Gene Battaglia and Worm.
Gene Battaglia.
Talk a little golf. Ipe Mizuhara now expected to plead guilty to federal charges of stealing millions of dollars from Shohei Ohtani.
It's showtime!
Scott Drew has passed on an offer for the Kentucky job.
I'm jacked about another opportunity. I'm like, let's go. Now, I met with the team. There is no team.
We're a team.
Me and my Buffalo Sabres, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Roger Sanchez Vicario.
I wish I did know of him, but
I don't even know. I don't know.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
It's happy hour. You're in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along in the free to download Odyssey app, AUDACY. Listening locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Maybe you're watching the sports bar. Twitch.com/The Fan Rochester. Our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. You can even get us on your smart device at home or in your office when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. I'm Mike Danger. That's Gene Battaglia.
I have no problem with the way the Buffalo Bills organization treated O.J. Simpson while he was alive. He was persona non grata. Like they knew taking his name off the wall would create a big story and that it would be kind of talked about for years and years and years. And eventually going to the new stadium, it'll look a lot different. I bring this up today because O.J., as we mentioned, passed. And as of now, the Buffalo Bills organization has yet to acknowledge this on social media. And look, if he was persona non grata while he was alive, why would you change things right now?
It's not going to change. So don't expect them to post any sort of tribute or anything to O.J. Simpson. Even though, you're right. They've handled this the right way. Taking the name off the wall would have been a massive story. And if you were to acknowledge it now, you would probably have people saying, well, you're acknowledging it now. You haven't acknowledged it. It would just, it's a tricky thing because by the letter of the law, he's served his time for the other thing that he did, right?
Oh, the memorabilia.
Right.
Yeah.
The crimes that he was actually convicted of, he served his time. He paid his debts. But we all believe what we believe. I got a text from one of my buddies who's a pretty random guy. He'll just send me texts from time to time, and usually when he does, it's just random out of nowhere. And it just said OJ. And when I got that text, I'm like, I don't know. What's he talking about here? What's this random text about? And then a few minutes later, Schmitty upstairs. We got to see Schmitty today for the first time in months.
Kidding.
No, he was here.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, did you see OJ?
You gave him the Rochester.
He's totally the Rochester guy. In
cool.
fact, I visualize Schmitty when I do the Rochester voice. Hey, Coach, did you see? It looks like OJ. I'm like, oh. And now we know that OJ has passed at age 76, prostate cancer. His family putting out the statement. And look, I feel bad for anybody that's close to OJ. You never want to see a family member or a loved one pass. But I also think that if you ask most people, what's your memory of OJ Simpson? Murderer.
Yeah.
Murderer.
Yeah, you can say that.
Got away with murder.
I thought OJ's BFF Kardashian, and he lost his life to cancer, and he took a lot of secrets to the grave. And it come to find out, who knew this? And you could say, all right, well, that's the way to handle it, and it's up to you. The way, if you're diagnosed with terminal cancer, who knew? Apparently there was some chatter online, I wasn't paying any attention to it, that OJ had terminal cancer, was in hospice, but he didn't let anybody know. Look, Danger, if he was concerned about whatever is after this life, you would have thought maybe, hey, I'm sorry for everybody. You never got that from OJ right up until the end. He lived in an alternate universe, one where he did not commit those crimes, where he was always loved. And so the one thing I don't want to is let's not have any revisionist history by donating his brain to the CTE research lab in Boston, please.
2,000-yard rusher. First ever rusher in the NFL to rush for 2,000 yards. Did it as a Buffalo Bill. So his time in Buffalo, of course, will always be remembered for his greatness. He was, you could argue, he's the best Buffalo Bills running back of all time.
Somebody say Thurman, but OJ. Like, if OJ doesn't come to Buffalo, are there a Buffalo Bills? I don't know. I wasn't around then, but it's Ralph Wilson was flirting with other cities after OJ kind of left in the early 80s. So, sure. Like this bill, we've always been kind of tenuous, throughout the history here. So OJ coming to Buffalo and actually kind of embracing Buffalo, that was also part of it too. Like, I'm going to go there, and then that's why Bills fans kind of fell in love with him. That OJ was proud to be, associated with the area.
So it was June of 1994, and I know that there are some people listening that have zero memory or recollection of 1994. Might not have even been born 1994, right? But man. If you were alive, if you had a pulse in June of 1994, this consumed you. OJ consumed you. OJ was the original reality TV. There's a world that we live in now where that's really all most of us consume is reality TV, whether you're talking about, the competitions that are on the network TVs. They don't do sitcoms anymore.
No.
Sitcoms are expensive, man.
Well, you have to also kind of OJ is a joke now, but back then, who would you liken OJ to? Like in terms of popularity in the country today, like a Justin Timberlake, would that be outrageous?
Stay in the world of football, because I think you could draw analogies to say he would have been like what
Tom Brady.
Yeah, or a Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
Peyton Manning has become this character, right? Like, it wouldn't be a shock when you see Peyton Manning on SNL.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning on SNL is charismatic. Peyton Manning on SNL is charming. He's funny. He's got a lot of personality. He shares it on TV. He's not in the same... I mean, the world has changed from when OJ did TV to what Peyton Manning has done, but it's along those same lines where he was this enigmatic figure that everybody loved, and he started showing up in movies. He was Nordberg in The Naked Gun. I mean, he was hilarious in The Naked Gun. The scene where he's in the wheelchair and it goes down the steps and he gets launched into the air and everybody has a good laugh, and Nordberg keeps getting beat up in The Naked Gun. The idea that somebody who we all kind of loved, would be capable of doing this and was the prime suspect in the murder of his ex-wife and her lover was so captivating. It was unlike anything we'd ever experienced.
No, because it was one of those stories that got rolled out, and you're learning about it as the authorities are learning about it. You learn of the murders that happened on a Sunday night and Monday, and this was OJ's ex-wife, and OJ is in Chicago, and it's like, wow, that is like kind of a terrible story. But then you realize, wait a second, he's a suspect. And the week goes on, and it goes on, and now you're consumed. You want more info. You want to learn more. And you realize, oh my gosh, he could have actually done it. To the point where they have enough evidence to put an arrest warrant. And I'm explaining this story for anybody that wasn't here in 1994. Because here's the press conference. It is 9 a.m. Pacific time, and it's noon Eastern time, and there comes the LA sheriff, and you think all the cameras are there, and we're going to hear about how OJ was arrested, and the sheriff gets up and says he was supposed to turn himself in. He is not. He's a fugitive.
He's a wanted man.
You can hear the gasp from the reporters. Oh my gosh, OJ is out there. And this kind of is also in the dawn of, hey, let's put a camera on a helicopter and kind of go around. And the NBA finals are going on that night. Think about this. NBC preempts the New York Knicks and goes to the coverage, as every network went to the coverage. And you're like, he's got a gun in the back. We're going to watch O.J. Simpson kill himself? Like, that's what we're all thinking, but we're not saying it out loud.
We'd never seen anything or heard of anything like that. It was insane. And so it gripped an entire nation. And then when the chase ends and OJ is in custody and the trial begins, you've got a whole nother set of eyeballs just completely transfixed on the outcome of this trial. And the evidence is overwhelming. There's no way you look at this and you'd be like, oh, he didn't do it. Like, prosecution, for multiple reasons, botched the trial. Like, lawyers will look at that and say, that's exactly how you lose a trial.
Yeah, like the most damning one was like Darden saying, put on the gloves. Okay, OJ's an actor. Of course he's going to show you the gloves don't fit.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. I mean, Johnny Cochran, rest in peace. That guy, just saying that. I mean, if you're a juror, again, beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt, so he's acquitted.
Then the trial goes 95. Pretty much, and it's in October. The world stops that day, Danger. Like, you can remember where you were when the chase was. And you also remember when they handed down the verdict. It's like the world kind of stopped. Live television.
And then everything that happened afterwards. Just a crazy, crazy string of events, all because of OJ. You then later have the civil suit and the civil jury, which found him legally responsible for the deaths of Brown and Goldman. And the $33 million verdict there, I guess OJ just didn't really want to pay the $33 million to Ron Goldman and the family, the Goldman family. Simpson then started selling his own memorabilia on the side. And this is where he was convicted. He reclaimed those items that he believed were stolen from him at gunpoint, charged with multiple felonies, sentenced to 33 years, serving 9 of those 33 years.
9 times.
Released on parole in 2017. That parole ended December of 2021. O.J. Simpson passing today at the age of 76. Unbelievable legacy. That the idea that we're talking about him more about everything that happened after his pro football play, as a pro football player, he was spectacular for the Buffalo Bills. First ever NFL running back to rush for over 2,000 yards in a season. But if you were to stop anybody and say, O.J. Simpson, murderer. Everybody has a story. Everybody remembers where they were. Everybody remembers how they felt. And, O.J., you're right, Gino. I think O.J. just lived in this alternate universe. If you convince yourself hard enough that this didn't happen, then you start to believe that this didn't happen. And I really, truly believe that O.J. did that. I mean, he just lived his life knowing that this happened, but convinced himself. You would be shocked at how you can convince yourself how much something didn't happen.
Anybody has an OJ story, give us a call. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Our buddy Mike in Sodas Bay. Mike, how are you today?
Hey, dude.
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Hanging in there.
Good. I'm a little bit older than you guys. OJ here in Rochester was a pretty big deal. My brothers and I went to see him. He came and spoke at Kodak Theater. I don't know if it was 73 or 74, but man, he just lit up the stage. That guy had so much charisma. They showed highlights. He gave a little, obviously, prepared talk. And then he took questions and answers from all these kids. And he was patient. He was great. He signed some autographs. If you grew up here, the fact that O.J. Simpson was playing on the Bills, it made them a national team, even though they were awful. He just brought a real sense of belonging to this area. It's so awful that what happened, because he was clearly, he's the superstar of Buffalo from the 70s. He's the greatest athlete ever to play in Buffalo, my opinion. And it ended so poorly and so awfully. They couldn't have him at celebrations. People have asked to take his name down. It's just crazy, the whole story. But man, he was something here in the 70s. He just made us relevant.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for bringing us that perspective because, yeah, you're right. That's just a little before our time. I remember like OJ of the 80s and up until like the 90s just being this Hollywood celebrity and Naked Gun and Battle of the Network Stars and all that fun
well,
stuff.
Mike touched on it. I mean, like the guy had a charisma, a presence about him, and he was a likable guy. He was a likable figure. That's why he was on TV after his playing career. That's why he became an actor. That's why you would see him on Battle of the Network Stars or whatever it was.
Hertz commercials running through the airport. There's OJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of a tragic turn for somebody who could have been beloved in Buffalo till the day he died. I mean, if none of that happens, we're talking about a legend in the Buffalo Bills, and we still view him as that, but we're not spending the time talking about him being the legendary Buffalo Bill. We're talking about OJ, the alleged murderer, more than anything.
Would we viewed him differently if he said, I don't know the answer to this, never will, like, oh my gosh, I did it, please forgive me, I'm willing to pay up? You never got that out of OJ.
No.
That was part of it.
I mean, and I think what rubs us all the wrong way is that he went about his life in such a carefree and almost arrogant way, as if to say, I know I got over on everybody.
Well,
like, did he do a book late in his life that If I Did It?
It was a Fox special, and I think his lawyers kind of got involved. Like, now we don't want to go down this road there, OJ.
It's crazy.
Even in the end, Danger, like he's doing the Twitter videos and he's on the golf course and he's just enjoying the good life.
Looking for the killer. Don't get it twisted. He was looking for the killer. And I'm sure there are a lot of murdering golfers out there right now that are resting easy tonight knowing that OJ is no longer looking for him. Some reaction on Elon's Twitter. That's X. At the Fan Rochester, our regulars chiming in, including Peter. I still remember in third grade when my teacher announced to us OJ was innocent. Bizarre day. Oh, and then you had the riots and everything that went on and the racism in the LAPD. Mark Furman. Remember the characters? I mean, how many characters came out of that? Furman, Ito, Kato Kalin, the Kardashians.
Kato Kalin.
Christopher Darden.
Biggest freeloader, Marsha Clark.
Like, just, we mentioned Cochran. These were all, F. Lee Bailey was a part of it. Like, it was just
Alan Dershowitz.
Yes. Yes,
the
dude.
dream team. This was
the birth of reality TV. The TV that your kids watch, the TV that they're growing up on. I don't know that it has the popularity it has without OJ, without this OJ saga.
Greg writing in, I was going through Air Force boot camp during the OJ chase. Our drill instructor was watching in his office, and he didn't yell at us for looking over his shoulder. That's big.
It is big. All right, Brian, I'll humor you. OJ has expired. It's cheap. Sorry about that.
We could just do like OJ puns the rest of the day here.
Don't cut me off, Gene. That last joke really killed Brian. Thank you.
No, stop.
I feel like we have to do it one last time. It is happy hour. It's become a part of our show. If you've listened to the show through the years, you know that when we conjure up anything juice related, we always go to the tried and true montage from The People versus O.J. Simpson of David Schwimmer as Robert Kardashian, every instance of him saying the word juice. And I feel like, as the juice has expired today, that we probably retire this clip. I don't know what would happen where we would feel the need to play this ever again. So, if you will, indulge me one last time. Your Uncle Juice is a good man. Every instance of David Schwimmer as Robert Kardashian saying the word juice in The People versus O.J. Simpson.
You got it, Juice. When Chris and I broke up, the Juice was there for me every night. It's like he's not really the Juice anymore. We gotta get you dressed, Juice. Juice, a will? Juice. Come on, Juice. Juice, it's AC. Juice! AC's here! Juice, I heard Juice. It's on every channel. You know I feel the same, Juice. You're gonna tell them yourself, Juice. Juice, your whole family's here, Juice. She's on the house phone waiting to talk to you, Juice. Juice. Okay, Juice? Okay, Juice, we're good to go. You're home, Juice. You know Uncle Juice and your Uncle Juice. Your Uncle Juice is a good man.
He's never going to stop being the Juice.
It could explain a lot, Juice. Just hear him out, Juice. He's right, Juice. Listen, Juice. Hey, Juice, this is your life. Juice, please, Juice. Juice, we need an answer.
You're home, Juice.
He stopped being the Juice today. He's never going to stop being the Juice.
Never going to stop being the Juice.
So the Buffalo Bills, understandable why the Bills not acknowledging this. What about Cuba Gooding Jr.? He played Oj in that series.
You know what? I don't really pay attention to what Cuba Gooding Jr. has been up to, but didn't he get into some trouble? Didn't I see he got into some trouble of his own?
Yeah, this is why. He's got bigger issues right now. He's caught up in this lawsuit with P. Diddy.
Oh.
He's been named.
I'm kind of also blissfully ignorant to what that is all about as well.
Yeah. We might be canceling Cuba Gooding Jr. too.
The other, I don't know, this is another like NFL tidbit just to shift gears here. Because we spoke earlier about, we'll have the plenty of draft coverage between now and the end of April. And by the way, we'll be live for the day 1 and day 2 of the NFL draft. Thursday afternoon, 3 Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue. Friday afternoon, the show will be live from the Taproom at Bill Gray's, Chili Avenue. And of course, with last week's trading of Stephon Diggs, the assumption here is that the Bills will go with a wide receiver in the first round. Will they move up? Well, that's all to be debated. Nobody knows. But the Chiefs now, the team that you're watching, you're paying attention for to see what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? This Rashee Rice, I mean, we knew that there was trouble coming. 8 felony charges and a little bit more of a rumble about what could actually happen here, that he could be placed on the commissioner's exempt list, or that the Chiefs could just outright release Rice so that they can avoid having to pay him for not working.
Yeah, interesting. This is happening. Excuse me. I'll get that checked out sooner or later. Yeah. Interesting that Rice here. It's happened in Dallas, same where Von Miller did. What's the difference? Von Miller's never charged.
Yeah.
Like, this is the big difference here. So
8 charges.
8 charges, we should say. This Lamborghini racing. My favorite part of the story. They did find a Chiefs playbook in the Lamborghini.
Well, that's good. That's good. He was showing his commitment to the team while he was...
Andy Reid nodding somewhere. I like that.
Fully guaranteed salary of just over $1 million for 2024. They could void those guarantees if they wanted to based on the language of his contract. So the need for a wide receiver, if there wasn't already a glaring need for a wide receiver at Kansas City, becomes a little bit more obvious with this Rashee Rice. You know he's going to miss time this upcoming season if he is still a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Keep an eye on that one here as we get closer to the draft.
Yeah, and we've officially, we're at the peak of lying season.
Mm-hmm.
You need no look further than down the road. I mean, Chris Brown, it's not a lie. He's bringing up this possibility that, hey, they could trade down. Here's what it's looking like. Well, coincidentally or not, there's Jordan Reed today on ESPN saying, the Bills could trade down. Dude, they're not trading down. If anything, Benjamin Solak today going on with Kay Adams saying, you know what, they could move up to number 3. Okay, so what is it? Are we moving on in the second round, or are we moving all the way up to number 3?
I like the idea of trading up to 9 with the Bears. This is my dream scenario now. As a Bears guy and as a Bills guy, I want to see everybody win. And I think this is the scenario where everybody wins. If you're the Bears, you don't have many draft picks. You're going to have Caleb Williams, but you're not going to have a lot of draft picks. And you have a lot of holes still to fill with that roster. So if Ryan Poles, take a couple of Bills draft picks and let the Bills pick at 9. Let them go with Rome Odunze. And everybody wins. Bears get a few more picks. Bills get their wide receiver 1, their wide receiver of the future. Who says no, as they like to say?
Something that's non-Bills related, I guess indirectly, the number of quarterbacks that will go, because that always dictates something. And I got a good tip from our wise guy Mo from Havana.
Hey,
now, of course,
our guy.
We can't bet on this, but Mo goes out to Vegas every month, and he's like, this is the easiest one ever. You know what the over/under is on quarterbacks to go in round 1? 4.5. You're going to have the 4 going, so Does a panic sneak in at the end of the first round? Most is, bet the 5.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see 5 in the first round. Hopefully they all come before 28. We'll see.
Are you kidding me? The Bills are not going to wait till 28.
I do think that if you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, you better be sure. Like, I think when you get beyond Williams, there's questions with all of them, right? There's just little questions with all of them. And we've seen now in the past so many times, you take a quarterback at 2, you take a quarterback at 9, you move up to take a... Like, if you have any doubts, I don't want any shadow of a doubt if I'm investing a first-round pick on my quarterback. I want to know that this guy is athletic, that this guy is smart, that this guy can make all the throws, that this guy... I don't want to hear, any questions about size, about athleticism, about inability to make all the throws. And with some of these guys that might go in the first round, you're hearing some of that. This is a giant red flag for me. Now, every one of these guys, you could say there's a red flag here, a red flag there, and nobody really knows.
They're like every quarterback, with the exception maybe Caleb Williams, like everyone has some red flags. Heck, what were they saying about Patrick Mahomes? His footwork.
Right.
Footwork. He's
right.
going to,
You're analyzing everything. You're analyzing all of them. And I think this conversation stems when you start having the conversation about J.J. McCarthy, right? He doesn't look like the typical prospect, but he wins. He's a winner. He's won. He's done all these things. Well, that's great, but you're going to invest a top 3, a top 5 pick on J.J. McCarthy? You better be sure. And you better love everything about that guy, including the things that maybe other people see as deficiencies.
Jack writing in, again, our handle, the fan Rochester on X. Please, please, please don't totally retire the juice clip. I'm sure in the future of the sports bar, it can be brought back again.
I struggle to think of what the scenario is. Look, we grow, we evolve, we age. Hearing a lot less Master Stroke. I mean, this is Masters Week. We would normally have Master Stroke on with us. I mean, Juice is gone. He's no longer with us.
David Schwimmer, if he's in the news for whatever reason.
Maybe.
There's some point we'll have more characters, and I say characters like it's some TV show, which it was. So Simpson's gone, F. Lee Bailey's gone, Johnny Cochran's gone.
Yeah.
You realize
the whole dream team.
Kardashian's gone, of course.
Mm-hmm. I think Darden and Clark are still around.
Clark's son worked in Rochester?
No, I didn't know that.
Kyle Clark. Yeah,
really?
He was a TV anchor at 13. I was out in Denver.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Probably didn't want, hey, I'm Marsha Clark's son.
Yeah, not the attention you're looking for?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, that guy that's walking free. Yeah, my mom kind of screwed that up. Yeah,
that's interesting. A round of shots on the way next, Gino.
Yeah, stories we're chasing in the sports bar today as it is Fan Appreciation Night at the arena tonight for heading out and out.
If you want some comedy, go to Sabres Twitter tonight. Just see the Sabres. When they put up the tweet about Fan Appreciation Night, whatever it is, I'm sure the comments will be sane and ruly and just. Can't wait.
Would a major Division I program actually play an entire home schedule on their practice field?
Oh.
The answer is yes, and we'll tell you which one.
Okay.
It's a school that has a little history with us here in the sports bar.
All right. A round of shots on the way next. Last call coming up, too. You can join us by pulling up a stool. 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Got a smart speaker at home? Listen to the sports leader, The Fan Rochester at home, by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
I would like to say that every day is an appeal to professional pride. I mean, you lace up the skates and you play in these buildings and you're playing what you love. So it's no different for me. You know, the situation and circumstances always change in life, but how you go about it should never, ever change.
There's Buffalo Sabres head coach Don Granato. Home finale tonight against the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, and the sarcasm should be flowing tonight. Thank you, fans, for making this such a memorable season of Buffalo Sabres hockey. Fan Appreciation Night. Look at it this way. In the 13 non-playoff years for Buffalo, now the Sabres got eliminated on Monday. That was the second latest of the 13. Isn't that kind of alarming? Only last year went down to right at the end. Buffalo will finish with at least 6 fewer standing points in last year's 91. That's, of course, assuming they win the last 3. Sabres and Caps, 7 o'clock tonight on The Fan.
But listen anyways.
Shohei Ohtani. So updating the story today where the Fed's speaking, filing a complaint, accusing the interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, of bank fraud. Carries a maximum fine up to $1 million and 30 years in prison. The allegation here is that he stole from Shohei Ohtani more than $16 million over 2 years. All this money going to the illegal sports book. The federal prosecutor, quote, I want to emphasize this point, Mr. Ohtani is considered a victim in this case.
Oh, my God.
$16 million.
It's amazing. The plea kind of confirms Ohtani's claim that he had no knowledge of the bets being made with the money. So, yeah, he would take that victim role. I will just say it, and I will always believe this. Do I believe that Ohtani had no knowledge of any of this? I do not. Do I believe that Ohtani actually participated in illegal sports betting in California? Yes, I do. And do I believe that the feds have no way of proving Ohtani's participation beyond a reasonable doubt without compliance from the interpreter's cooperation? Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely. This is the cleanest exit you could hope for Shohei Ohtani, for Major League Baseball, for the LA Dodgers. Somewhere Chris Carter is grinning from ear to ear.
It's even cleaner in this sense, Danger, that Ohtani's interpreter, this was the fear. He would have inside info. Oh, my gosh, so-and-so's hurt. Let me bet against the Angels tonight. No, none of these bets apparently happened on baseball.
That I actually do believe. That, for whatever reason, I think that's probably legit.
The Masters leaderboard. Well, let's give you the Tiger update. He just dropped a stroke. It's okay. Even through 4, which, yeah, the late tee time today, they didn't get going till a little after 10 o'clock today, so Tiger's tee time getting pushed back. As we mentioned in the update, Bryson DeChambeau, today 65, your clubhouse leader. Danny Willett, he's in the clubhouse, 4 under. Will Zalatoris, Scotty Scheffler also at 4 under. It was a good start today for Rory McIlroy, and of course, this is the one he hasn't won yet in terms of the Grand Slam, even through 10.
Did you know that Scotty Scheffler went to the same high school as Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's enough winning from that high school. I think we're good. Who do you like? Who's your guy this weekend?
Wow, I look, it's probably Tiger or Rory. And Rory, of course, Rory's from Rochester. So,
he is. He is one of us.
You didn't know that, right?
Yeah, he is one of us. We've claimed him as ours.
I know you like the guy with the crazy shirt there.
Wyndham Clark is my guy. Wyndham Clark. If we're going to celebrate and appreciate wealth, then Wyndham Clark will win the Masters. He will be wearing the green jacket on Sunday.
Wyndham Clark should be on some sort of yacht somewhere, right? Pulling up.
That is the bougiest name on the tour right now. Wyndham Clark? Are you kidding? I mean, Bryson DeChambeau is blushing at Wyndham Clark. Your potential round 1 leader.
How this potential move of Arizona to Salt Lake City could work. And we were joined by Dennis Bernstein of the Fourth Period. And look, he's of the opinion that, hey, the NHL could indeed facilitate this sale, and then Arizona at some point could get an expansion franchise. Here's the hang-up. Current Coyotes owner Alex Marullo has basically run out of time to have an arena plan. The latest being winning a land auction that if he won, okay, then maybe he could build an arena in Phoenix, but the NFL doesn't think the plan will fly, and they're done waiting. So the league would purchase the Coyotes for $1 billion, in turn flip the Coyotes to the Utah Jazz owners, Ryan and Ashley Smith, for $1.3 billion. All this likely coming down to the wire in the spring.
And really nothing changing here over the course of the next year and a half, maybe 2 years. Because like what Dennis was saying was they don't want to play a fifth year in Mullet Arena.
Right. So you could have, just as soon as next year, this Coyotes franchise moved.
Yeah.
But then, oh my gosh, they're going to give another franchise to an Atlanta, and they're going to give another franchise to the Phoenix area. Why? Development. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah, the money's not in the team. The money's in the land. The money's in the arena. The money's in the stadium. For sure.
Finally, talking about a new stadium, Northwestern football. They're building a new stadium, but to do that, they have to knock down the old one. So what are they doing in the interim? 2026 is when the new one opens. So where is the team going to play? Soldier Field? Wrigley?
No, Soldier Field makes sense.
A big high school, maybe? A big high school will be better than the plan that they have. The Wildcats will be playing their home games for the next 2 seasons at their practice facility. Ohio State and Wisconsin amongst the teams that will be playing in front of no one.
Oh, I know, Gene. I know you mentioned this story because you want a reaction out of me. And I'm going to just say this.
You love Northwestern football.
I'm going to say this. There's nothing wrong with this decision. The Northwestern football program wants to play for a couple of seasons on their practice field. They are smarter than you, and they're smarter than me. They're better than you, and they're better than me, and they know what they're doing. So this is a perfectly sane and rational decision by the program. They've done it again. They've always been, they've emerged, they've become something that none of us thought they could become. They're somewhat relevant in the Big Ten, and especially in the last few years. I don't know if you knew this, but they can compete. So I know you want me to say something negative about Northwestern football. I will not do that. Not this broadcaster, not on this platform. I applaud this brave decision to play college football games on a practice field.
See, that's well played. Because in the history of the sports bar, Mike Danger, I don't think any team or any subject has triggered someone like Northwestern football, like that person in question was triggered at us just for saying, hey, compete, or whatever it was we were saying at the time.
Yeah, I don't remember. They were always a laughing stock. Just remember, You remember, and I remember growing up, Northwestern football never won anything. They didn't win anything in any sport ever, anywhere. Football program had a couple of nice seasons. But now I'm telling you, this is totally fine. Play your games on a practice field. Should be awesome. Can't wait. Congratulations, Northwestern, on your new stadium in 2026. Last call is next. 866-4FAN, 866-4326, and we'll get you set up for tomorrow afternoon in the sports bar as well. Next on The Fan.
On the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's last call at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. And you know, on a day where a lot of people are reflecting and sharing their memories on O.J. Simpson, I mean, John from Rochester's got to chime in with, you got to have at least a story. What are you doing, you Spartan, you?
Hey, guys. Brings back memories. 1975, first year I had my season tickets, right behind the Bills bench. And, man, O.J. was unbelievable that year. Unbelievable. Not only a receiver, but, of course, a runner. But I got to tell you, he started one of my favorite movies of all time besides Dumb and Dumber. It was called Capricorn 1 with Sam Waterston, James Brolin, Elliot Gould. A fascinating movie, guys. You got to check it out.
What's it called?
Capricorn 1.
All right, I'll add it to the list.
You got to check it out.
What year?
It's really good.
1977.
1977? Yeah,
you got to see
your
it.
hero was
Fascinating.
2. I don't know that I'm... That was one that never crossed my feed, but John, I'll add it to the list. Wink, wink.
You got to. You'll love it.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate that. No, I thought he was going to go Naked Gun. He pulled a deep cut. What's this movie called? The Capricorn?
65% approval on Rotten Tomatoes for I'd never heard of it.
All right, let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game for Naked Gun. Because that's the movie that, when I think OJ as an actor, it's Naked Gun. It's he's Nordberg. It has to be. I'm saying for Naked Gun, Rotten
86,
Tomatoes. I was going to say that's got to be over 80.
Yeah,
that's the one. Well, it's one of those. We remember where we were when the chase happened. We remember where we were where the verdict happened. I'll remember where I was when Schmitty stopped me. Hey, cuz, I think O.J. Simpson died. You check that out. What? Rest in peace to the Juice. Although most people will probably view Juice as a murderer.
Quick check here to the Buffalo Bills saying thoughts and prayers with their Wall of Famer, and the answer is no. We're still celebrating Steve Tasker's birthday.
Family's going through what they're going through, and you hate to see that for anybody. And I'm sure that the Goldman family, anything that reminds them of their loss is probably difficult as well. Tomorrow, we get into Amerks mode. We kick off your sports weekend with Andrew Mossbrook stopping by the sports bar.
Yeah, like Andrew would take our thing. You don't cheer for the Belleville Senators if you're an Ottawa fan. So
it's just poor form.
That is terrible. We'll talk to Andrew about, it's a home stretch here. Can the Amerks actually get the division crown in the regular season? We'll also talk to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, as, hey, we're going to focus a lot on the draft here. We are only 13 days away here from the NFL draft, and we'll talk to Ryan about these wide receivers that Buffalo may be selecting.
We'll keep tabs on round 2 of the Masters as well tomorrow afternoon. I'm not going to lie, I've been pretty distracted this afternoon between the OJ stuff and round 1 of the Masters happening right now. Lots of action.
You turned off the Mets on me today. Look what happened. 16-4 win.
I did you a favor. You didn't need to see them blow out the Braves. You knew they were going to win that game.
I feel pretty good.
No, Gene. Keep it even. Even keel. April 11th, Gene. April 11th.
Just a little bit.
April 11th.
Can I tweet some Braves friends?
Gene? Oh, hell, what do I care? Do whatever you want. I'm going to call you a misfit one way or the other. We're back tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock. Andrew Mossbrooks, 3:25. Ryan Talbot, 4:25. If you missed any of this afternoon's show, find us wherever you pod. Look for the Sports Bar. Search us out in the free-to-download Odyssey app. The JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester.